Hi everyone, I'm very happy to be here with you with a great guest today. A guest to talk about two expertise sound engineering for model music, as well as playing instruments, recording, composing, and all sorts of things. I'm very happy to have with me Efren today. Hi Efren again.
Hello, Fadel. Thank you for having me again here.
Yeah. Actually, we had a great interview previously where you were generously sharing a lot of experiences of a musician and a lot of things that you have experienced in your life. And today we are going to go into another scene of expertise. And let me start by asking you, why do we have to worry about sound engineering as musicians and artists?
Um, I think it's really important for every kind of musician to have even a little knowledge, no, of how sound works, basically, because this is the our mean. How we reach people's ears is by sound waves, no.
Mhm,
So this is even beyond sound engineering. Is like the physics of sound, no.
mhm,
But at the same time, we need this bridge between our home practice and your potential audience. Uh,
mhm,
Either we are talking about recorded music or even live performances. The most of the times we use microphones to amplify our sound. So um, it's really useful in many ways to know how that works. Why? Because,
mhm,
for example, there is a kind of vocabulary, for example, no, that every sound engineer knows, and myself as being in both sides, I see this conflict all the time in sound checks or
mhm,
studio recordings. It's very common, and it's totally fine. But when you're a musician, sometimes you don't know how to express yourself. You know that something is going wrong in the sound. You don't like something in what comes out from the speakers, or in the recording, but you don't know how to express it
mhm,
because basically you don't know even what's the cause of this problem of the thing that you don't like in your sound.
mhm,
So to achieve some understanding and knowledge about how this sound works, will give you these tools, no, to this easier communication, this common vocabulary with a sound engineer to explain him or her in a very specific way what's wrong with your sound, what is
mhm,
disturbing or annoying you. And in the opposite way,
mhm,
I also realize when I play with my bands in concerts, I talk very straight to the sound engineers. You have to cut this frequency, and the most of the times they are very happy to realize that actually I know what I need from a sound. So only this is already a very good reason to study a little bit of sound
mhm,
engineering, no? Or physics of sound,
mhm,
uh, and sound recording, or yeah. Uh, but there are many other reasons that I find interesting. For example, if you are, I mean, for any kind of musicians, either if you are just a performer or a composer,
mhm,
for example, to record yourself and analyze your playing might help you enormously to improve your playing, no? Because it's also very common
mhm,
that when we are when we are playing, the moment that we are playing, sometimes we don't realize some little mistakes we do, or some imperfections, no, for our sound,
mhm.
or their tempo, or their sense of rhythm or intonation, no, in instruments like oud or violin, that you need to actually tune yourself.
Yeah.
So also to record yourself might help you in this direction, no? To really to analyze almost like
Mhm,
like a surgery, no, a
Yeah.
surgery with the microscope to analyze your playing. For
Mhm.
example, how you improve your improvisations, no? If you
Mhm.
record, you record yourself every day. Of course, you can record yourself even with a mobile phone, no, nowadays. But also by recording yourself with a bit better equipment, with some decent microphones or sound cards, you will have also an idea of how you want to sound. So uh,
Mhm.
there is no such a thing as a natural sound. Every time that you go through a microphone and amplifiers and all the electronics that are involved, your sound will they will color your sound.
Mhm.
So if you record yourself a lot of times, you in different situations, like playing a very soft song, a very loud song, all kinds of situations,
Mhm.
you will understand what your instrument needs in each one of those situations. So, and how
Mhm.
to approach it when the time comes to record an album or a concert or whatever.
Mhm.
So there are two reasons to,
Two
but
main reasons.
I could name, I
Yeah.
could probably a number more, but
Yeah.
we will do it on, I think,
As we go.
over
Yeah, I'm sure. And actually, you hit into when you say record yourself. This is like indicating a necessity of a home studio.
Mm, mhm.
Why do we need a home studio? Do we like? Is it easy to build? Do we really need it? Can we substitute it somehow?
No, sometimes it's not even a substitute. It might be because, okay, myself, I have this privilege, how to say, that I'm both a musician and a sound engineer. So I can
Mm.
even, if I want, actually, it's one of my the
Mm.
challenges for this year. I would like to record an album at home. I
Yeah.
know that the quality won't be as same as is in a professional studio, but I want to do it here as a personal challenge somehow.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, this tool of the home studio can help us in a number of fields. First
Mm-hmm.
of all, as I said already, is to improve our own playing
Mm.
and our own skills as a composers, for example,
Mm.
if you are interested in this in
Yeah,
writing
yeah.
music. And and the good thing is that nowadays, I mean, with the money that you will spend, like, I know, 20 years ago, in 2 days of studio or 3 days of studio, you can buy a whole uh, setup, for
Mm.
to record yourself in a quite decent quality that might. For example, in my case, I'm also a composer.
Mm.
So when I'm writing music and I have ideas for arrangements, how to combine several instruments and things like that, if I want to create new music and one day go to the studio to record it, this will happen after uh, a, a sort of different recordings of the same song. For example, these
Mm.
different tries of let's try how this song sounds with played on oud or on buzuk or on Afghan rubab or which
Mm.
percussion works better, which instrument of percussion, dabuka, bendir, rek, whatever.
Mm.
But- so is a tool also of it's like a it's like a sometimes I feel like a child playing with toys. No, it's like you combine different colors and yeah, this can be a good reason also.
Mm.
Another reason to have a home studio, and also
Mm.
another thing that I have noticed
Mm.
quite often. When I used to work in professional studios before all this revolution of the home studio.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that a lot of times really good musicians that were really great on stage got totally blocked on studio, no?
Mm.
And because this fact of going to studio wasn't natural for them. I mean, they
Mm.
will do it once a year or once every 2 years. So
Mm.
the good thing I think this happened because they were not used to listen to themselves through the microphone, and they
Mm.
had a totally wrong idea. Even if they were great musicians, they had a totally wrong idea of how they sound from outside. So the this practice of recording yourself often
Mm-hmm.
gives you this. It makes you something natural in your life. It's not anymore something special or no, it's something really natural. You do it every day. So that you will go to do an actual professional recording
Mm.
will be like one one
An norm.
very
Mm.
daily occasion. It won't be something traumatic, no, as
Yeah.
many times happens, no. So this is also it could
Mm.
help us, no, in this direction too.
So in this case, there is a stage fright, and there is also a studio fright. So
Exactly.
we are curing this
Yeah,
with Hans.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also to know your instrument, for example, if you play violin, like in your case, or you are a singer,
Mm.
also it happens a lot, no? How to
Mm.
sing in front of a microphone. Sometimes
Mm.
is totally different for some instruments. I play oud, for example.
Mm.
Is one of the instruments I play.
Mm.
And of course, if I will play in a situation where where we play without any microphones, any amplification,
Mhm.
probably I will play much louder than when I'm in the studio. Now that I can play with more nuances in my playing, more
Mm.
different kinds of ornaments. Of course, I can play so very loud if I want, if the piece of music requires it. But I have the much more choices. No, of
Mm.
so, or for example, if you have several instruments, I play oud and I have few different instruments from different makers, Turkish oud, Arabic oud, Iranian oud.
Mm.
So I can understand if I record myself often,
Mm.
what are the advantages or disadvantages of each one of those instruments in different situations.
Uh-huh.
For example, I know that my Lebanese oud has a very defined sound. Even if you play in a large ensemble, when you play one note, it's really there. No, is
Mm.
while my Ramazan Turkish oud is a wonderful instrument too, but its nature is totally different. Is
Mm.
a more smooth instrument,
Mm.
very nasal sometimes, but in the other hand, you can play. It has a very long sustain, and you can
Mm.
play very long phrases even only with one misrab. No, so
Mm.
for example, and of course, you don't need. It's not totally. I mean, you don't need the home studio practice to know
Mm.
that. But if you do it through a microphone, you will know how this instrument, how all these different instruments
Mhm.
react to microphone, how they respond,
Mhm.
and it will make your choices when it comes to play an actual concert or an actual recording, which instrument to choose for each project, for example. It's
Yeah.
something I'm describing exactly what I was doing last week, for example.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
have several ouds, and for each project I will choose one or the other, depending basically on that, on how it comes out from through the microphones,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we are using these microphones. Also, you will understand better which kind of microphones work better for your instruments. So
Mm.
all this will add actually quality to your sound
Mm.
as a musician.
Interesting. Interesting. Let's just hit into one topic, then move to back to the same track. How would your practice be different if we like put it together with home studio? Will the practice change? Is there like other things coming into picture?
Yeah. I will give you an example of my own experience as a musician.
Mm.
Uh, for all my life, I always loved percussion instruments, and
Mm.
everything that has to do with rhythm. I
Yeah.
admire many friends, many colleagues of mine that are percussionists. I always in like jaw dropping when I listen to them. I really love percussion, and when I compose, I really think about the rhythmic patterns for usul or ika. It's something that is really important for me.
Mm-hmm.
So for all my life, from the very beginning, I always played some discrete percussions in my albums when
Mm.
for different reasons. But only the last let's say 10 years, I took it more seriously and I start to actually practice percussion at home, no?
Mm.
And when you are a percussionist, I really recommend. Is a bit outside of the topic of today,
Yeah.
but I really recommend to play percussion to any melodic instrument player or any singer,
Mm-hmm.
and the opposite also.
Yes.
Every I believe every percussionist should play also should sing or should play any melodic
Mm.
instrument. The thing
Yes.
is that especially the last years, because of the lockdown, all the
Mm.
activities were a bit like stopped. So
Mm.
I took the advantage to do several things, and one of them was to practice more seriously percussion.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you play, at least when I practice, I the most of the times I like to use a metronome.
Mm.
So and one of the two skills as a musician that are harder to improve are the most basic ones. Is the sense of rhythm and
Mm.
the sense of the intonation. To be able to recognize when you are playing off key, out of tune.
Yes.
So, for example, if by recording myself
Mm.
often as a percussionist, that is something that I never did before. I do it for many years, but I always focus on melodic instruments, oud, rubab, balama, whatever. So this time I start to record myself playing percussion,
Mm.
and it was incredible, no? Because actually this progress is something that you can quantify, uh, quant-
Yeah.
uh, because you can see, no, how accurate you are
Mm.
uh, playing on the metronome.
Mm-hmm.
And really, in only 2 years, I think I improve a lot. My
Mm.
tempo as a percussionist improve a lot, and of course, it probably helped also my tempo as a wood player or as a
Mm.
musician in general. No? And
Yeah.
I really it's something that I really admire when I see a musician that has a very groovy tempo and rhythmical skills. Is something that I really like. No, and
Interesting.
when I analyze which musicians I love the most in each instrument,
Mm.
many times it has to do with my preferences have to do also with the groove
Mm.
with the how good rhythmically they are, no?
Interesting. Very interesting. And so in this case, you always switch on the recording and you have your home studio ready for every day's
It's
practice.
always ready all the time, because even sometimes I not it's not always, but especially when I have a concert, for example, next week I have a concert in
Mm.
France, and we will play with microphones.
Mm.
So I always try the last days of practice before that concert,
Mm.
if in the case that that we are going to play using microphones, to actually practice listening hear myself through the monitors.
Mm.
I put the microphone in front of me and I play
Mm-hmm.
the repertoire using the microphone. So
Mm.
because also your your sound changes so much, no?
Mm.
You have the different possibilities. There are things that you can't do so much when you are using microphones, but on the other hand, you have other possibilities that this amplification opens. For example, you can play more piano sections, no, very
Mm.
softer if you like.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
yeah, so the microphones are always there when I practice, when I do anything, and we will talk also about that
Sure,
I think
will do.
later
Will
on.
do.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like a mirror when we see ourselves in the mirror. This is a sort of
Exactly,
audio
absolutely,
mirror,
yeah.
and actually we become outside ourselves and we see things that we cannot recognize while doing real playing.
Exactly.
So we discover many other things, and we maybe have a critical eye or some arrangement eye.
If we are sincere to ourselves, yes,
Yeah,
because we can cheat ourselves also sometimes. But
exactly, exactly. So let me hit into one more thing about home studio. What could a home studio be like? Like, what are the main components that constitute a home studio today? And I think
um,
this started 10 years ago. I could understand from what you have said
yeah, maybe a
previously.
bit earlier, but yeah,
Mm.
nowadays it's really it's
Mm.
everywhere. Even and we tend to put the label, no, what is home studio and what's not.
Yeah.
But the fact is that even really expensive productions that are in the world of the field of pop music or rock music
Mm.
happen actually in what we could see as home studios. I mean,
Mm.
because the technology that we are using today, that the technology I'm using in my room
Mm.
every day is very close to what the biggest pop stars use nowadays.
Mm.
Is in the box, as we call it. I mean, recordings that are
Mm.
uh, mixed and um,
Mhm.
created in a computer. Of course, there are some other gear
Mm.
that is less affordable. I mean, what happens before the sound gets into the computer through the microphones and the sound card? This can be a
Mm.
bit more expensive, but I mean, we are really able to do really really good recordings at home
Mm.
with a cost that is nothing compared to what it was 20
Mhm.
years.
Mm.
Uh, the question was, sorry.
What is
uh,
what is a home studio?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what are the components of a home
So
studio?
the first thing is the place, no, the room,
Mm.
um, for example, here where I live is a perfect place to wanna to build a home studio because we have two things that are really expensive and difficult to afford when you are in a, let's say, in a building in an apartment in a big city, for example,
Mhm.
which is silence around you.
Yes.
So here I live in the countryside, so this is solved already without spending 1 euro.
Mm.
And most of the times because we have some animals here.
Mhm.
uh, and the second, I mean, the second is the room itself. Where do you place the studio? And actually, a modern apartment type of construction is the worst, actually, the
Oh.
worst sounding place, no, for a studio. I mean, the most of the times, what we need from a room to record to use it as a home studio is to be quite neutral in the sense that it doesn't have like echo or reflections of the sound between
Mm.
the walls. And but unfortunately, the most of the apartments, are like square. I mean, the rooms are square or
Mm.
parallel walls, and which is the less desirable
Mm.
option.
Yeah.
So we can do some. We can. There are some cheap solutions to that problem. For example, like hanging, heavy curtains on the walls or in the on the roof too,
Mhm.
and that could that could break these reflections that
Mhm.
make will create this echo or this amplification of some specific frequencies that will make our sound more confusing, more yeah,
Mhm.
blurry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also we can use. I actually do. I have some carpets on the floor, so I mean we are using absorbing materials to absorb all these undesirable reflections. So
Uh huh.
we get a space that is or dry. This is the goal of all this. In my case, is not the case actually, because it's perfect as
Mm.
it is. The room where I record, I have these carpets on the floor, as I said, but also the no one wall is parallel to the one
Ah.
in front. So it's a, and also the surface of the walls is very is not regular. It's not like straight. It's like very, it has like
Mm.
mountains and valleys, so to say. See,
Uh-huh.
because it's an old house. So all these
Interesting.
reflections
Mm.
get destroyed. They get cancelled,
Mm.
and you have a. I mean, there is a quite dry sound there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Also, the roof is wooden, and there is a. It has this inclination, so there is no actually parallel walls.
Mm.
No, the
Interesting. So this is about the place and the space.
space. Yeah, 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 yeah.
What about the equipment, like the basic equipments
Yeah,
required,
for
or
the
yeah.
equipment, we need obviously a computer that is
Mm.
quite powerful. I mean, and
Mm.
nowadays any average computer
Mm.
will will be enough
Mm.
for a project you know for an
Mhm.
average project. Then of course we need a good pair of I always recommend to have a good pair of monitors,
Mm.
like studio monitors. I don't know if you want me to talk about companies, or
I mean, whatever needed, just to
may,
give an
may, may,
idea of what a home studio is.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe I can give you some links and we can add them in
sure,
the video if you
sure,
want.
we
Yeah.
can do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there are some, studio monitors that are really affordable, like
Mm.
300 euros, 400 euros for a couple of
Mm.
speakers that will give you, a quite reasonable and
Mm.
accurate picture of what you are doing, no, in your mixing.
Yeah.
And always I combine that with headphones monitoring also.
Mm.
I when I'm mixing a project, I all the time going back and forth from
Mm.
speaker to headphone.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, and then we need a decent sound card.
Mhm.
Also, there are some sound cards that you can get for 200 euros. That for this level of home studio is more than enough. Of course, you need to decide to check to understand how many inputs you want, no? How many
Mm.
microphones at the same time you want to record. If you are sure that you will never record more than yourself, no, like
Mm.
practicing or creating some arrangements combining different instruments, but it will be always only one musician. You can I mean two channels will be enough for
Mhm.
that purpose.
Yeah.
But if your aim is to record also like little small ensembles,
Mm.
maybe you will need like 8 inputs, eight channels,
Mhm.
and then a good couple of microphones, I will say.
Mm.
Or yeah, I will send you also some links of
Yeah.
different brands from
Mhm.
150 euros to thousand. I mean thousands and thousands.
Yeah.
I mean for this environment with this level of
Mm.
home studio, really, I think for we if we spend like okay, it's some money, mind, for a young musician that is not yet in the is not a professional musician. It's money. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
good amount of money. But I
Yeah.
mean, if you compare it with what we had just 20 years ago, it will be a dream for us as a musicians
Yeah.
to you know
Mm.
to with the money that you will spend in 3 days of studio, to be able to do like whole
Mm.
arrangements. Is a job that we will do. It's a part of the work of a musician, these
Mm.
arrangements and orchestration side.
Yeah.
It was always done in the studio, no? So we will spend a lot of money only by figuring out
Mm,
uh, which combinations of instruments to use and all these kind of things, no, that
mm.
now can be done very very easily.
Yeah, yeah. So now we talked about the laptop, the monitor, the headsets, or
Yeah,
we
headphones.
say
Yeah,
yeah, headphones to be accurate, and
yeah.
then we talk about
Sound card.
sound card with the number of inputs required, and the
Yeah,
types of microphones could
yeah,
be
yeah.
yeah.
Types of microphones. The two types of microphones that we use the most, and
Mm,
there are more types of microphones that, but are a bit more rare.
mm,
The basic ones are condensers or dynamics
mm.
microphones. In general, in few words,
Yeah.
there is plenty of tutorials in YouTube about this subject, but in few words, the dynamic microphones are a bit less accurate, less they get less detail of
Mm,
the instrument playing, but they can hold like a louder or more peaks
mm,
like louder sounds, like for example percussions or loud wind instruments or things like that,
mm,
and that will sound distorted in uh, in in a condenser microphone that are usually more sensitive
yeah.
to the nuances of the dynamics of
Mm,
the different instruments. So,
mhm.
but it's not that one kind is better than the other. They have different
Uses.
uses. For example,
Mm,
if I and even I combine them all the time. I
mm,
might record the same instrument using at the same time, pointing to the instrument, two different microphones that are totally different,
mhm,
like for example a cheap
mm,
dynamic microphone like the Shure SM57 and
mm,
an expensive condenser microphone. So I will get different nuances of the same source,
mm,
and later on when I will mix the for example a violin,
yeah.
sometimes you need a very elegant sound, a very round sound, not very full sound
Mm,
of the violin, for example, for a specific context.
mhm.
But in other contexts, you might need the totally opposite, a very rough, very uh, yeah, more aggressive
Yeah, yeah.
sounding violin, no, because it has to
Mm,
to cut the mix among
mm.
other 20 instruments, I don't know, and you want
Interesting.
the violin to
Mm,
be in the front, so maybe we will need a instrument. We will sacrifice a little bit of the nuances of the instruments, or of the
mm,
instrument, or the dynamics, or the little details, but we will get a more punchy sound, more
mm.
punchy. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. And then what else do we need? The software or what
Yeah,
else?
software also there. I'm using the last years this program called Reaper.
Mm,
It's a very cheap one, but it's I have used all the every
mm,
program you can imagine. Of course, Pro
mm,
Tools, Logic, Audio, Cubase,
mm,
everything really.
mm,
But since I tried the Reaper, I found that it's really easy. I mean, really easy to use, very
mm,
flexible. Also, I really like that. I mean, you
mm.
can change every parameter, every
Feature.
setting. I mean, you can really
Mm,
personalize it a lot, and this is something really nice. Even visually, or all the
mm,
commands, all the shortcuts. I mean, everything can be
mm,
modified to your needs, and this
mm,
is really nice, and it sounds great, and also the way it uses the memory of your computer is incredible, because
mm,
sometimes I'm running projects with 80 tracks,
mm.
and with a
80,
lot
you
of
said? 80?
80 is
Wow.
80, with all kinds of inserts and reverbs and everything, and I don't know how they managed to do
Very
it, but
optimized. And you are
yeah,
using that on a laptop, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Excellent. So these are the essential things for a home studio,
yeah,
Efren.
yeah,
Did
yeah.
we miss anything, or this is basically it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, this is enough. I
I don't
think
think.
more
You
of
need a
these
musician, of
details.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think more of these details, in-depth details, can be experienced in Efren's online classes
Yeah.
that he's offering through Labyrinth and maybe other venues.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
At the time I'm doing it, I had done like live
Mm,
sound recording
mm,
workshops in other platforms also, but online I'm doing also only I'm doing
mm.
it only through Labyrinth Online. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Interesting. I think we will see a lot of what we have discussed and later when we go into demos and examples and a lot of really fruitful discussions. But let me ask you a very essential, foundational question.
Yeah.
uh, why sound engineering is different for model or maqam music?
Uh-huh.
Is it different? Do we have to really see it this way from your experience?
There are some aspects that are common to every kind of music,
Mm,
jazz, classical, everything, which is the yeah, this knowledge, this technical knowledge of the physics of sound, to know the gear, to have experience, with all kinds of microphones, etc. But the approach, of course, is different to each kind of music. For example,
mm,
um, because each kind of music, first of all, uses different instruments the most of the times,
mm,
and also those instruments play a different role in this kind in each kind of music. Even if you take like your rock music, you know if
mm,
you name it, if you call it rock music, is a very broad label that
mm.
contains a lot of sub labels,
Exactly.
right? And you really, because I come also from I was a professional sound engineer in a commercial studio, so we had a lot of rock and pop artists coming there,
Mm,
and the the accuracy with which they separate each label. For example, in rock, you have, I mean, you can name it all rock, but you have, from, I don't know, soft rock to heavy metal music to death metal. I mean, and each one of these styles has a different approach. For example, of how the drum set should sound like,
mm.
or how the guitars, or how the voice. So imagine if in this little field, not little, but I mean,
Yeah.
in only one field of rock music, you have so many differences. So the same thing happens everywhere, no?
Mm,
Uh, and I see this all the time, all the time. For example, one thing that I have noticed
mhm,
many times from sound engineers that come from more a pop approach or classical approach.
mm,
Always they ask you, when they want to mix, when they have to mix your project, what's the solist instrument? What's the main instrument? No, for example.
mm,
I really never know what to answer to this question, because, for example, say that we are playing, yeah, like a Turkish classical music um, project, no?
mhm,
Imagine that you have a kemanche, tambur, oud, ney, kanun, and two percussionists,
mhm,
kudum and bendir.
mm,
What's the solist instrument? For me, there
mhm,
is no solist instrument really.
mm,
I mean, all these instruments are playing more or less in unison, and creating some kinds of. They are mixing actually themselves. I mean,
mm,
what all you have to do is to place the instruments in the space of the imaginary space of
mhm,
the performance, and then let the instruments themselves to create this balance, this natural balance.
mm,
Because I mean, if the Comanche player will play a phrase, some kind of ornament, for example, that is outside of what is written in the score, so to say.
mm,
I mean, probably the other musicians will let space to that instrument. So you don't really need to put the Comanche as a solist or the canon as a solist. All them are helping each other to build this
Mhm.
this sound. No, that is a block. Is like
Mhm.
a wall of
Yeah.
sound. No, that is created with the help of each other.
Mhm.
It is, I think it's less. Of course, when there is a voice, things change a little bit. But again, no, I mean, you need all the support of all the instruments to surround the voice. No,
Mm.
of course, you want the lyrics to be understood and all that. But uh, I see this all the time when we play concerts. No, they usually put the ney very loud because they think, I mean, in their mindset, the strings are accompanying
Mm.
the wind instruments, for example.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily like this.
Mm.
And also in this styles of music, traditionally the combinations of instruments are always great, no? Because you never have like many instruments from the same family. So you have, for example, the oud and canon.
Mm.
They are plucked string
From.
instruments, but usually they play in different octaves. So they leave space to each other.
Mm.
And then if you have an A and a Comanche, it's the same. I mean, they are very far away from the sound of the black strings. So everybody has its own space, not to shine.
Mm. Yeah.
This is one aspect,
Mm.
but yeah, and musically, I mean, musically is different. It's a bit more of the same. What
Mm.
I'm saying now, but yeah, in other styles of music, there is this concept of accompanying instrument because it's
Mm.
is supporting the melody with the harmony. We don't use the harmony, or we don't use the harmony in that extent. When our harmonies are usually quite simple, and consist mostly in drones, or low strings that you hit sometimes to enforce the sense of tonic sometimes. And that's why they should not be considered as accompanying instruments, but just is a whole mass of sound that goes
Mm.
together. No, at least this is how I feel it, how I see it,
Mm.
and I don't see it because I didn't choose to be like this. It's just a matter of observation, no, and knowing
Mm.
what are the roles of each instrument in each tradition. Yeah.
Mm. Interesting. And maqam music, how about the harmony? How about maybe having a continual sound, or
Yeah, yeah.
is this part of the features that we don't see in maqam music or model music in general?
This is always I think this is a bit beyond sound engineering, but I mean, the best sound engineers I know, all them are good musicians as well.
Mm.
So it's important to understand music, what is going on musically, and and
Mm.
and and how important or less important every element that you are
Mm.
taking in consideration is.
Mm.
Uh, uh, so yeah, the most of the times we don't use harmony, but especially the last decades,
Mm.
some attempts, no, of adding some s- simple harmony or basic harmony
Mm.
are there, no? And
Yeah.
this is a matter of taste, of course,
Mm.
but the most of the time is not like this, or if even if we use our harmony, it doesn't really fit in the concept of chords, no, because the
Mm.
harmony, as in understand last centuries in the West, is chords versus melody, no,
Mm.
it's not it wasn't always like this. It was more a counterpoint in the origins of harmony.
Yeah.
But nowadays it's like this. So what the most of the sound engineers have in mind is the instrument that plays the chords. I mean, a guitar, piano or whatever, and the instrument that plays the melody.
Mm.
But for example, there are instruments, of course, that are 100% melody, like for example, an A or violin. Sometimes you can play like double strings, but the most of the times in Arabic or Turkish music is like monophonic instrument. No?
Mm-hmm.
With the oud, things change a little bit, and you have actually is a part of the
Character.
personality of the instrument, the character, yeah,
Mm.
to accompany yourself with the drones, no? Or
Mm.
also the canon that we play many times in octaves or doing some simple arpege or things like that.
Mm.
Yeah, but very rarely we have an instrument that actually its purpose is to provide the harmony. Very,
Mm.
it's quite rare in our music. We might have the contrabass, the double bass,
Yeah.
sometimes, but even at least at least
Mm.
as as far as I know, the most of the times it provides for example, in Arabic music from the 50s or 60s was more like a doubling the melody in the low register and
Yeah.
in combining with the usul with the ikka, no? And
Mm.
so it wasn't really adding another layer of information. It was just uh, adding sound, no,
Mm.
frequencies, but not adding
Yeah.
a new layer of yeah, counterpoint or chords or yeah.
Mm.
So it's quite residual in this music. Although it's, and myself even sometimes I use it. I use a harmony for
Mm.
my compositions,
Mm.
but the approach is quite different actually from this
Mm.
chords versus melody.
Interesting. Interesting. So, a quick important question, Efren, before we delve into hands-on.
Yeah.
What is the objective of the sound engineer work?
Uh, there are, for example, myself. I can I can talk only about myself, sorry,
Sure.
but
That's what we
the,
want to hear.
yeah, yeah. There are two different roles, so to
Mm.
say. One is the pure sound engineer, what we could call sound engineer,
Mm.
and then there is also the producer role, no,
Mm.
which is a bit different. Actually, you know, in the the more money they are in one in
Mm.
one specific style of music, the more specialized the workers are. No, for example, myself, I had this experience when I was playing in rock bands. In
Mm.
some of the biggest studios, you have even a guy that the only work he does is to tune the drums. For example, there is a
Mm.
drum set, and this guy is specialized in tuning the drums only.
Mm. Mhm.
There is another guy that that does the EQ for the drums.
Mm.
Then is, you know, so the whole spectrum of the different jobs, the different works that you need to do in a production is is like a uh, divided into many little rooms, many little boxes.
Mhm.
But actually, in our world, in our reality, the most of the times is the same guy that is a sound engineer and is the producer somehow, no? So
Mm.
is the sound. If you are just a sound engineer, your objective, your duty is to. I mean, this figure of the producer should be always there. It might be one of the musicians of the group. I mean, somebody that has this vision
Mm.
and can see the things a bit from outside. This is very important, no?
Mm.
Is a to overview, no,
Mm.
the job. I mean, to have a vision of okay, where we want to get, and find the best way and the most efficient way to get there, no?
Mm.
And sometimes there is no the figure of this producer, and productions get a bit more chaotic because nobody knows where to go, so to say.
Yes.
It might work also. Sometimes it works like this, but the most of the times it's a bit
Mm.
frustrating for everybody, no? Because
Mm.
I mean, a good producer should take the idea of the musicians, if there is a one clear idea, and and you know, these ego battles are always there,
Mm.
ego fights.
Yeah.
but because I mean, a good producer, I think, should or sound engineer should really listen to the ideas of the musicians, what they want to express through their music, because really there is nothing that is right or wrong in sound. In you know, each one of us has his or her own story and, dreams and experiences, and we each one of us wants something maybe different, no?
Mm.
Even music partners, no, that are in the same project sometimes have a different approach, no, to the same things.
Mm.
So our mission should be to really to listen to the musicians. And if they have not a clear idea, they have not a clear idea of what they want to do, maybe you can also be a kind of coach, no, to okay, to listen to music, for example, together, to get some examples from them of what they want to do, no, what is their ideal, and then provide your, your technical knowledge. If you are a sound engineer, what you have the most of the times that the musicians haven't is just technical knowledge, no.
Mm.
If there is a wood player that comes to your studio, and he or she wants a very big sound, very bass, and and very full. So if you have experience with this instrument or this kind of music, you can advise some choices, because in this job, we are the thing is that we are doing choices all the time, every
Yeah.
second. We have many different ways, and we are choosing to go from this way that will open other choices, and on and on and on. And you can help all in this direction, no? With being humble, but also having uh, I mean, if you are sure that something is gonna be wrong,
Mm.
your duty is also to advise, not to the musicians in this sense. And some conflicts always will
Yeah.
happen for sure. And actually, I think really you develop a lot of psychological skills also,
Mm.
because when you as I said before, nowadays it's a bit less, but in the past it used to be a very traumatic uh,
Yeah.
experience for many musicians. So also, I mean, to be with them, to make them feel good, to really to try to listen to their vision, and try to combine it with your knowledge to together to do something that is satisfying for everybody, for the musicians, for yourself also as a sound engineer. Yeah.
Mm.
So all this
Interesting.
is a bit mixed. No, what is the role of a sound engineer?
Mm.
What's the role of a producer? All this is a bit. The
Yeah.
borders are not that clear. No?
Interesting. And Efren, now when you produce a product, okay, that product should be at a certain standard of the sound quality or arrangement or whatever, or you better maybe mimic reality.
Yeah.
What kind of direction you will take?
This is also something that, as I said before, should be a constant
Mm.
uh, with the musicians. I mean,
Mm.
this is something that happens prior to the actual recording, no, to discuss it, to see what are the common, because for example, in my case, okay, I'm a sound engineer, but I'm also a musician. It's not that I'm only a sound engineer. So nowadays I will accept only jobs that really have to do with what I like in
Mm.
music, and also there is an artistic part in this, you
Mm.
know. So if they don't like what I actually do as a sound engineer,
Mm.
because every sound engineer has some signature sound, so to say, no.
Yes.
is
Mm.
is like this, no. I mean, you have some preferences, some things that you like, some things that you don't. And you know uh, my situation now is like this. I don't depend as a professional. I don't depend only about of my work as a sound engineer. So I have this luxury of choosing, no, what to do and what not to, because
Okay.
for you know, so it's different of I'm different of one guy that has a professional studio and he has to accept everybody, no, because it's his job.
Mm.
But the first thing I will do is to sit with the musicians and to ask, for example, for references.
Yeah.
Okay, you are asking me to mix a album of Ottoman classical music. Okay, can you send me 3 4 albums that you like how they sound?
Mm.
And sometimes I also realize that they think they like the sound of the album, but actually what they like is the playing, no,
Mm.
and the whole atmosphere. And I understand that, but it's important to clarify, no, okay, I mean, you are not gonna sound like this big master, no, because I mean,
Mm.
this master sounds like this because he was an incredible player, no,
Mm.
and very with a lot of imagination and creativity. And maybe we are not in the same level, but okay, we'll do my best to make it sound as good as possible, as clear, as
Mm.
powerful, as whatever you want, as soft as whatever you want.
Yeah. Interesting. Efren, this is so interesting. Let's take a break.
Yeah.
I would suggest that you tell us about a recent piece that you recorded or maybe played and recorded,
Uh-huh.
and maybe let's share it in this break with our audience. What would you
Okay.
suggest? Yeah.
So I think we can listen to one of the pieces that I mixed recently for actually is the last mix I did
Mm.
for an album. It's called Inchi. Is this project of some Turkish masters, including my oud teacher, Necati Çelik,
Mm.
and they recorded this album, which contains Turkish ilahis and some taksims as well, of course.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Raleigh. We'll listen to it. Efren, after listening to this great piece, actually, and discussing a lot of things previously, would like to go into the process of sound engineering and mixing. What are the main components of this process? What do we do, like if we see them as steps, main steps?
Yeah, the steps. Um, this can vary from project to project depending on the, on our gear, or also the piece of music we are gonna record, the how big the group is, if it's one solo recording, duet, or
Mm,
bigger ensembles. Uh, Especially when it comes to home studio recording, we have some limitations. Mostly, most of the people has space limitations. I mean, you can't put like
mm,
members, musicians, five member groups in a small room in an apartment, or things like that.
mm,
Um, so we have different solutions to that. I mean, from recording one by one, we using a metronome, or not. Sometimes you don't even need a metronome if you record first one of the instruments which is more, playing through the whole song, and keeping the tempo. Sometimes you can add later on the other instruments. This whole, of course, has to do with the type of music you are going to record, with the experience of the musicians
mm,
involved. Because I know many of my friend musicians are really against this metronome recording. No, they're recording
mm.
with metronome.
Yeah.
I'm not against anything,
Mm,
because I'm used to do all kinds of productions. So and I'm actually very used to play to a metronome,
mm,
and to me it feels really really natural. But I do understand that in many for many styles it doesn't work at all. I understand that, and I agree with that.
mm,
And so in this case, when we are recording something that can't work with using a click track, we can, yeah, we can, and we don't have the space to hold, five
mm,
or six musicians. We can record one or two tracks at the same time. I mean, with two of the musicians.
mm,
For example, imagine that you are recording a fixed piece, which has beginning and end, and no improvisations
in the
in
middle.
it.
Mm,
Uh, uh, you maybe might use this option, yeah, to do it in that way. I mean, to record, let's say, oud and canon together,
mm,
and then add the other instruments one by one, maybe ney, violin, or maybe, I don't know, canon and percussion, one of the
okay.
percussions, and then add the other instruments. No, it's always to have a. I mean, to when we are doing it that way, it's always important to have in the first yeah, the first musicians that will play in the multi-track recording should provide both the reference, the tuning reference for all the other instruments. That's why
Mm,
I say the canon first,
yeah.
because it's the more stable instrument of the Arabic, for example, ensemble, and the percussion that
Mm,
provides the rhythm. Then you can add the oud. I mean, if the oud player has the reference of the canon, and they agreed on the intervals, it can be played easily with a safe reference, and then violin, ney, voice, whatever.
mm,
But for some styles or pieces of music, this doesn't work. I mean, this
mm,
multi-track recording doesn't work. So it's better to find a bigger place. It can be a abandoned warehouse, or
mm,
garage, or whatever, that has a decent sound, not so much reflections, not so much echo, and try to actually to improve the
mm,
place, as I said before, using carpets, or curtains and heavy curtains and things like that,
Yeah.
and record with the whole band together. Of course, for that you need more inputs, more channels in your. I mean, it
Mm.
makes things more complicated and take us to a more professional approach. So
Mm.
is not so much home studio anymore. No?
Yes.
But it can be, I mean, it can be an option. I mean, I know people that does that. I mean, even with a not so expensive gear, and they might have
Mm.
some available space like this that might
Mm.
work for this kind of setting. Then, of course, we have the multi-track recording that I use all the time for my own projects. I mean,
Mm.
even if the goal is to record like together, live in the studio,
Mm.
but maybe for the demos, you can multi do it like multi-track, like use a click track and play
Mm.
to this click track and add the instruments. Try. I do it every day, really every day,
Mm.
and yeah. And once you have this, also we record a lot live, no, in live
Mm.
concerts.
Yeah.
So once you have all this material already in your computer,
Mm.
then we go to the next step, that is before even mixing the different channels. One thing that I like to do is like to put some order. I mean,
Mm.
to clean up tracks that might have some noises or uh, yeah, noises and basically noises or some problems, and then yeah, then we go to the next step, which is to do the mixing, no? Which is
Mm.
quite complicated, and it has a you have to have in mind many different factors, and it's a kind of more uh, pro- professional process.
Mm.
But also by doing your own mixes of your own music, we learn so much, no?
Mm.
And we can understand many things. Of, for example, uh, about why sometimes you have a recording and you try 2,000 different ways to mix it, and no one
Mm.
of them works.
Mm.
And usually, if that happens, it means that something went wrong in a previous step. It might be the composition itself is not good enough, or the arrangement
Mm.
most of the times, the playing, some. So that's why I insist in the importance of doing these recordings over and over and again, because you learn so much, even about how to play, also
Mm.
how to play in different contexts, no. So, yeah, unfortunately, many times, when you are mixing a project, what you do is basically solving problems.
Mhm.
Solving problems that if we had this experience before, could have been solved in previous steps. So everything will be more smooth, no?
Yeah. Like problems could have been avoided from the beginning.
Exactly. For example, yeah, the way of playing, as I mentioned before, no,
Mm.
I'm an oud player, and really the oud can be played in so many ways. You can listen to many masters. I'm not talking about
Mm.
beginners, really masters, and each one of them has a different approach, no, to oud
Mm.
playing. So you can analyze also what we get by playing the way of that master, or
Mm.
that master, no, and how, especially how it combines with the other instruments, no, because we have this tendency, the as you know, Fadel, the life of a musician
Mm.
is very very lonely
Mm.
in the sense of the most of the times we are alone practicing ourselves in front of a score of a or whatever, no.
Mm.
So sometimes by doing that, which is totally necessary, we lose a bit a broader uh, uh, side,
Vision.
no,
Mm.
approach, and this
Mm.
is important. So
Mm.
when sometimes when we mix, we solve these kind of problems that are
Mm.
really easily solved before, no, in terms of, for example, dynamics. Dynamics is a bit issue, no,
Yes.
the control of the players over their own dynamics,
Mm-hmm.
or yeah, the arrangement, the combination of instruments.
Mm.
Some combinations, for example, if you combine a very uh, o- something that happened quite often
Mm.
to me before, until I realized why it happens all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
I play also discrete and lauto or baglama instruments that are metal strings
Mm.
that have this nature of being very shiny, of course,
Mm.
and quite more aggressive than the nylon strings, for example.
Mm.
So if you combine an oud and a lauto, usually, the oud is a wonderful instrument. It sounds always great if it's
Mm.
solo. I mean,
Mm.
in a solo. For a taksim is, I could listen oud taksims for my whole life and not missing anything else.
Yeah.
But it's an instrument that also, as for example, it happened in Egypt in the 50s and 60s when they brought this huge orchestras, no, with 20
Mm.
violins.
Mm.
It's totally dead. No, it's not there anymore. You can hear, I mean, from the most of the old recordings in Arabic, yeah, most in Arabic music, you listen the oud as a something very far away
Yeah.
that provides some bass, but you can really hear all the nuances and the beauty of the
Mm.
instruments. So this is also an issue. So I was talking
Mm.
about combining, for example, an oud with other plucked
Mm.
string instruments like lauto or balama or zouk that are much more aggressive, much more in your face, so to say,
Mm.
and have this attack like which is very fast. So
Mm.
then what happened that all the attack of the oud is totally cancelled by the attack of the other instruments, and what you get from the oud is a sound like very
Mm.
muddy.
Yeah.
You lose all the definition, no?
Mm.
So probably a different approach in terms of a combination of instruments will have left the oud to shine more if that was the case. It's not always like this. I mean, when we combine many instruments, sometimes it's not needed that we hear all the details of each of all the instruments. Sometimes the instruments are there just to support the whole the whole picture.
Yeah.
But I mean, by doing all these kinds of experiments, you get an idea, no, of I mean,
Mm.
nowadays I know many combinations that simply
Mm.
doesn't work, and so I don't even try them anymore. So I save a lot of time. I go to combinations that work better and that leave every instrument to express itself. No?
Interesting.
So yeah,
So in this case, Efren, we do the preparation before recording,
yeah,
the type, the place, the all the things that can help us avoid problems that can come later in the mixing.
yeah,
Then we do mixing, and mixing has a lot of things inside,
yeah, exactly.
right? And then we master it, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then we finalize when we say, okay, good enough, because we cannot finish.
This is
Yeah,
also an issue, especially with
yeah.
home studio, because yeah, when when the studios used to cost
Mm,
600 euros one day,
mm,
we were so sure, no, of what is going to happen in the studio. So everything was perfectly planned in
mm,
the ideal case of a very good organization.
mm,
And when the sessions were finished. That's
mm.
it. That's it.
Yeah, no
But
choice.
nowadays, this is something that a bit dangerous
Mm,
because
mm,
this is something also that you can learn it. After a lot of experiences, you learn. No, okay, now is enough. I know that if I give it more time,
mm,
it will be just different. It won't be better. I mean,
mm,
I feel quite um, confident about
mm,
this most of the times. No, I
yeah.
know where things are like when I'm more like beyond any logic or any.
Mm.
I think I can see myself from outside quite well. I mean, I really like to do the, the, my mix to my mixing to be perfect if I can.
Mm,
And but I think I know when to stop. I work a lot for the mixes I do,
mm.
but I know when to stop. So I'm okay with that.
Interesting.
But in the past, wow, I remember, you know,
Is
I
there
did
any
have.
hint? Is there any hint of when to stop, or it's
No,
complicated?
no, I guess is the result of a lot of experiences, really,
Mm,
and also, I'm quite methodic when I'm
mm,
mixing, so I save every mix I do.
mm,
I mean, even pre-mixes even when the production is not yet finished, but I start to figure out how I will mix. So
mm.
I do some, some attempts. So
Okay.
I save all these, like mix version one, mix version two,
Mm,
and we always
mm,
are make jokes with my friends that if they always say if a friend didn't mix at least 25 times, the song
mm,
is not the right mix, no. And it's true. I mean, sometimes I have like 25 mixed, but it doesn't mean that I sat, like, for 1 week to do each one of those mixes. It's only that I like to document all the process.
mm,
So in case that, because it happens quite often that you are mixing something, and
mm,
when you finish, you are satisfied, but there was some details that were really good in the third version, for example,
mm,
and now you are in the 25 version, no, in the
mm,
version number 25. So it's good to go back to see, okay, I maybe overdid it here, no,
mm,
or I wanted to such a clean sound that I sacrificed something that actually was nice, no,
mm,
in this, and this is also something, and forgive me, please, if
mm.
I go around sometimes,
No, no, you are doing
but
well, really. Where I'm
but I think
enjoying.
it's important to point out that, I think one of the reasons why I became a sound engineer is because I understood that if I'm always in the hands of sound engineers that have no idea about even the name of the instruments I play,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in troubles all my life.
Mm,
And very especially, what is the character of the instrument and the role that usually it plays in a given kind of music, and it happened me to play some instruments that are really rare here in Spain, where I live,
mm.
and when
Yeah.
I do the most of my activities as a musician.
Mm,
So sometimes they hear strange noises in the instruments I play, the sound engineers, and they want to, to
clean.
clean them, to clean them. And I'm like, come on, but this is the beauty of this instrument, no? Or some resonances, some of the history of Western music instruments is always to make the instruments more capable to play more, more octaves, more uh, keys,
Mm,
and to make the instruments sound more equal in all the range of the instrument,
yeah.
which is great, and thanks to that we have amazing instruments, and not only instruments but the knowledge itself, no, this
Yes.
is incredible achievement, no, for the mankind.
Mm,
But in this path, I think we lost sometimes this particularities of some of the instruments. For example, the Afghan rubab that I play, you know it
mm,
very well, I think. So we have these sympathetic strings. We have
yeah.
the 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 soundboard of the instruments is made out of skin.
Mm,
So it has, all the all the how to say, characteristic particularities of a
mm,
bad sounding instrument in that, for the mindset of a, cello player, for example,
mm,
because the skin, every day sounds different. The the sympathetic strings makes that some now know some very resonant, some others are more dry.
Mm.
It's quite limited in terms of range because we play
Mm.
mostly like one and a half octave. So there are some, and the sound also is very nasal,
Yeah.
nasal. So
Mm.
we have some particularities that when you go to imagine that you go with this instrument to a guy that is used to record electric guitars that
Mm.
are very perfect, and all of them. I mean, if you play by this one of these Fender Stratocaster guitar is a very well-known sound for each sound engineer.
Mm.
So they have already some references from the
Okay.
60s. There are
Mm.
great players that use this instrument, so there are a lot of references. While we are bringing to the studio one rhubarb, is the first time that this
Mm.
guy listened to it, and he might or she might be the best sound engineer you can find, but you know they have no reference of how is supposed to how this instrument is supposed to sound. What
And
is considered a good sound for that
what
instrument?
about the culture itself, like the instrument and the culture? For example, some people like to show their finger sounds, or the
Yeah,
pluck, or
yeah,
some noises. It's like cultural
of course.
taste. Yeah.
I have a very
Mm.
personal
Mm.
experience that exactly displays exactly what you are mentioning now. For
Mm.
example, I play the Cretan lauto. You know the instrument, no?
Yeah.
Like yeah.
You
For
play
those that does
everything, man.
no no. For those that doesn't know about
Yeah.
the instrument, is like a kind of, so to say, oud, big oud with metal strings
Yes.
and a long neck, right?
Mm.
And uh, many sound engineers here in Spain knew me from my rock and metal years.
Yeah.
And when I came with the lauto for first time to some of them to record, they were like, uh, "Wow, Efren, wow, you play like this because you used to play rock, no, or metal."
Mm.
And it's clear that you were playing metal because no, you are playing in this very aggressive and rhythmical way, very powerful.
Mm.
And I had to explain them that no, this is actually how it's played in every village in Crete, and has nothing to do with my background as a metal player. And
Mm.
actually, if you go there to some old players, they play even more aggressively than me, because actually this instrument is the one that in the most of the cases provides the pulse of this music,
Mm.
because the most of the times we don't use percussion for Cretan music. So you
Mm.
have this instrument that is actually pushing, no, the whole machine of
Mm.
the ensemble for the dancers to dance, right, for the people to
Okay.
dance. So
Mm.
it's very important to know what's the role of this instrument in
Mm.
its musical culture, and respect that,
Yeah.
understand it,
Yeah.
and respect it. So, for example, the very first time I recorded that instrument in Spain, it was in 2002.
Mm.
I was the producer. It was my own album, but I had an assistant. It's called Chimo Jimeno. He's a very good friend of mine and amazing sound engineer. But he was really reluctant, no, when he saw me playing that, and really my playing was not that aggressive. It could be much more aggressive.
Mm.
But really, we were really close to not include that song in the album, because even myself, I was a bit, uh, I was doubting, no, I mean, I was
Mm.
reluctant, no, okay, maybe
Mm.
he's right, no, because he's too aggressive. But and I realized, come on, no, it's like this. I mean, I was living there in Crete, and I know how
Mm.
instrument is supposed to sound, no? So
Yeah.
there are some, or for example, the violin.
Mm.
Uh, we tend to think that, okay, the violin is a violin, but no, I mean, it's very different how they play it in a Vivaldi concerto with God strings, or
Yeah.
an Indian South India raga to
Yeah.
Arabic taksim,
Mm.
or I mean, it's the same instrument, or the fiddle they use in Norway or Ireland is a totally different approach to the same.
Yeah.
So it's important to have this culture, this education as a, I
Mm.
mean, as a sound engineer to listen to a lot of music and understand what's the role that each music each instrument plays
Mm.
in its environment, natural environment. No?
Mm.
Same,
Interesting.
same thing with, yeah,
Mm.
with the oud. It happens a lot with the especially with the Turkish oud. We have this static sometimes that the settings of the ouds, the action is really really low, and
Mm.
sometimes we have this buzzing.
Yes. Yes.
When you slide your fingers over the soundboard.
Mm.
When they tell me, when some sound engineers tell me, there is so, a strange noise. I don't even hear it anymore because I'm
Uh-huh.
so used to it that I don't find it a problem. No, so this
Mm.
is also something really important to have in mind in order to not to not kill this part of the sound of the instrument. No?
Interesting. So, Efren, what kind of demos or examples can we see to get a closer look into the realm of sound engineering for model music?
Uh, you mean like listening music or
Maybe
seeing
show us,
actual?
yeah, show us some examples of your work on the software.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Also, something that I forgot to mention before, because actually, the most of the
Mm.
time is included in the programs that we use, Pro Tools or Reaper or whatever program
Yeah.
we, we prefer, is the all the plugins, of course, the
Mm.
plugins which are the the way we have the tools we have to process the sound
Yes.
in many ways, from EQ, which is the most basic equalization. That means that
Mm.
we can boost or reduce some frequencies that are missing or that are too much in the source
Yeah.
sound. uh, Compression that also help us to tame, so to say, the dynamics of a
Mm.
given instrument, and all kinds of effects, also like reverbs
Mm.
that help us to create like a virtual space where we put
Mm.
the musician. I mean,
Mm.
when we record a piece of music, one of the steps of the mixing process
Mm.
is to put that band, that ensemble, in a given space.
Mm.
It might be, I mean, every music performance is produced in a space. It might be, a kitchen,
Mm.
a warehouse, uh, a concert
Cathedral.
hall, cathedral, a concert hall, all these kind of
Mm.
spaces. So we
Mm.
have these tools, which are especially reverb plugins
Mm.
or also delay plugins. I use them sometimes,
Mm.
that create this space, no, this illusion of
Mm.
space. So they imitate and emulate the reality. And
Yeah.
that's why also that thing connects with the point of keeping the space, the room where we record, as dry as possible. So
Mm.
if a room is already very resonant, it might be okay. I mean, but we will record the sound of our instrument with this resonance, and we won't be able to take it out if we
Mm.
don't like it finally.
Yeah.
While if we record in a drier environment, we will always have the possibility to add artificially
Mm.
some space. I mean, we can have the exact same
Mm.
recording and put the musicians in different virtual spaces. No.
Okay, so in this case, if we record them perfectly in a very good, dry, and well-maintained space, we
Mhm.
can put any option we want. We might maybe change the location of the player, the one on the right, the one on the left, the one
Exactly.
closer to the audience to make him the furthest, or maybe bring it to a cathedral and it was in a small room. right?
exactly.
Isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, or open space or whatever.
Exactly, and this has to do with with what we was talking about before about the choices. I mean, it's all about choices, all about choices. From
Mm,
the, also when I talk to some colleagues or musicians that are interested in sound engineering, and they ask me, I like this song you mixed, no, that recording you did like 10 years ago, I don't know,
mm,
and we tend to focus on the mixing process, no.
mm,
I mean, our brain works like this. I mean, this
mm,
sounds nice because the guy that mixed it is a genius.
mm,
But maybe it sounds that nice because all the process. I mean, all the
mm.
choices. As I said before. I
Yeah.
mean, and it this huge amount of choices goes from the really choosing which strings you put in your which brand
Mm.
of strings you put in the instrument, which
Yeah.
specific instrument you use, the arrangement, the song. I mean, is a. I mean, so we have some iconic, recordings that we
Mm,
all love, and they sound good not only for one reason. It's a compound of so many reasons, no? And
mm,
so that's why we have to be very careful with every choice we do, and
mm,
also we need also to be very to feel safe and secure about each one of them, no,
mm.
to of course experience will give you that, no, and you can foresee what is going to happen, no, if I take
Okay.
this path, what is going to happen later on, no.
Mm.
So yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So
Interesting.
okay, so now I would like to share with you a few different um, Reaper projects. I mean, the Reaper is the DAW I
Mm,
use, the digital audio program that I use, and and each one of them belongs to a different project in which I'm involved in one way or another.
mm,
So I would like to show you like different um, situations that we can
mhm,
phase, no, when we are recording or mixing a project. So two of them are live. I mean, a group of ensemble of musicians playing together, but
mm,
in a big space. And another project is Leonore Fournier, is this singer,
mm,
French singer, but she sings mostly Kurdish and Turkish music.
mm.
And it's a live concert in the Garden of Labyrinth in Crete,
Uh-huh.
with a reduced group of audience because of the situation. It wasn't possible to be like a real concert, but anyway, the situation is like a real concert,
Mm,
sonic wise.
mm,
And then there is another very simple session that is just me and the same woman, Eleanor, playing in this very same place. We are playing that
mm.
corner, so it's a
Yeah.
very simple recording. It's live again. This is more similar to no to any live. I mean, any home studio situation is two musicians playing live and singing also. Uh, and then there is another project where I play too,
Mm,
which is a trio that we have with Jordi Prats and Ciro Montanari, when we play a mixture of Indian, Afghan, and other Afghan music. And this project has the particularity that it was recorded in a professional studio, but on and live is live. The three of us playing, but to a click track.
mm,
So we could edit because we recorded like a few takes of each song that were quite long, and then we could combine. No, for example,
mm,
one section of the first take, another section of the second take, and because of playing to a click track, it was easier to edit in this sense.
mm.
So I will share my screen, and we can have
Interesting.
uh, you can see now the session, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the first of actually the last session that I mentioned
Mm.
is just three instruments and some effects that I added later on. So
Mhm.
here we have a sarod,
Mhm.
dutar, which is a long neck lute from Herat, from the city
Mm.
of Herat in Afghanistan,
Mm.
and the tabla. So as you can see here, the sarod, there are two tracks that are called sarod left and right. Is
Mm.
because we use two different microphones to
Mm.
capture the sound of the sarod, and two microphones and a pickup to
Mm.
capture the sound of the dutar.
Mm.
We will hear the difference. I mean, what each one of these microphones and pickups add to the sound.
Yeah.
And then the tabla here, we have like four different tracks, right, for the tabla,
Mm.
which are the tabla, if you know, is like a drum, an Indian drum that is played mostly in India, but also in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and other places, which
Mm.
is a couple of drums actually.
Mhm.
So we put a different microphone for each drum, and actually, I mentioned that already. I use for example, here this track is called tabla left dynamic, tabla left condenser. So each
Mm.
drum has two microphones. They
Yeah.
are very small drums, but in spite of that, I use two microphones for each, not because it's a huge
Mhm.
instrument, it's a huge surface, but because of the totally different nature of each of these two types of microphones. So when with the condenser microphones, I'm getting a sound that is more, elegant, so to say, more with more nuances, more with more dynamics. While with the dynamic microphones, I'm getting another side of the same sound, which is
Uh-huh.
more aggressive, more hard, more harsh, and more percussive, so to say.
Mm.
And since it's a percussion instrument, we might need this
Interesting.
quality, this quality of sound. So
Mm.
it's good. Just we had the possibility to do it. Why not do it? So and later on, I will decide which how much of each one of those instruments I will add to the
Mhm.
mix. Let's see. For example, here in this is the tabla. These my four tracks are
Mm.
the four mics of the tabla. Let's for now mute all the effects and all the reverbs and
Mm.
that stuff, so we can hear the dry sound of the tabla.
Mm.
These four tracks.
Mhm.
You can hear a little bit of the other instruments through because as I told you before, we were all together playing in the same room.
Yes.
So, but the tabla comes. So we have these two microphones, which are the condenser microphones,
Mhm.
from which we get the most of the sound of the instrument. But if we see this tabla left dynamic, tabla right dynamic, they are adding also a bit more of this more crispy sound of
Mhm.
the edge of the attack of the tabla. A bit
Yeah.
it's a bit drier. It's not that round, but it's a bit less elegant and less. It has less detail. But
Mm.
anyway, I had to add a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And because actually this is what we want from the tabla, no?
Mhm.
To add this not aggressiveness, but this definition of the pulse of the rhythm, no? So
So
it's
remembering the reality then.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because as you
yeah,
said, when the sound goes into the microphone, we are already starting a new problem. Now we want to bring it back to nature, isn't it?
exactly, which is always a quite how to say, it's a quite a subjective
Mm.
thing, no? Because you might have a totally different
Perception.
perception, no,
Mm.
of the same sound that me. So, but that's why always we always have to make choices. So and
Mm.
also even in the same, this song belongs to a whole full album, and
Mm.
don't think that I did the same for all the songs with tabla, because in some other songs the song might require something totally different from the tabla, a
Yeah.
more soft sound. But this one is this specific track is
Mm.
quite, I mean, is quite intense in terms of rhythm.
Mm.
So and we have let's listen a little bit of the song,
Yeah.
because we have it's quite simple. Is the three of us playing live in the studio, as I said before,
Hmm.
and let's listen without any reverb or anything. It's just two quite resonant actually instruments, the sarod and the hereditary guitar, that both have this set of sympathetic strings. And they have a quite similar sound in terms of they both are plucked string instruments, metal strings. They use metal string instrument, yeah,
Mm.
metal strings, and both play the same octave actually. That
Mm.
is something that we try to avoid with this project. Usually,
Mm.
when Jordi plays the high octave, I try to to go to the oud, for example, to play a lower octave. So we
Mm.
have more separation between us, more. That means that the sound of each one of the instruments will be more defined.
Yeah.
But here wasn't possible, and actually we liked it. We like this quality of this song.
Mm.
A lot of improvisations. There is a lot of improvisation.
Mm.
This interplay, no, between
Mm.
sarod and the hereditary. So the tabla here in all this the first section is not improvising or not really adding extra information. So we keep it as a just holding the groove of the song, no?
Mm-hmm.
And
Interesting.
some interesting things that I might add. Um, mm, yes, I was saying that this recording, the concept was, yeah, to play to a click track.
Mm.
It's not always possible, as I said before, because the song might require, like, this natural changes of tempo that happen in live music. But we were practicing a lot I mean, the three of us are very used to do that. So
Mm.
we managed to not do it in a way that will sound like artificial
Yeah.
or robotic. No, I mean, if probably if I don't tell you that it was recorded playing to a click track, you will
Mm.
never notice it. But because the three of us are quite used to that, and actually if you see that this there is one tempo change here
Mm.
to the end of the track. yeah. So we program that and we play to that
Mm.
sequence of tempos. No.
Uh-huh.
Then we were talking previously about the space, no,
Yeah.
in a mixing
Mm.
process. So and the ways to create spaces are the tools we have is first of all the panoramics that we call, no, to place one instrument more to the right or to the left or to the center. And this is one of the simplest processes
Mm.
in a mixing session, but actually it it, it has the possibility to change drastically a recording. Sometimes a mix doesn't work just because of that. No.
Mm.
Especially in these styles of music we play where the unison phenomenon is happening all the time.
Mhm.
And 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 we have when we have many instruments that are playing the same, more or less the same melody, of course with different ornaments, but basically the same skeleton,
Mm.
the same line, and especially in the same octave, it's really hard sometimes to to hear every single color that each instrument adds to the band.
Yeah.
So a way to separate instruments from each other in, in these terms is with the first of all with the panoramics, before even thinking about how far, for example, they are from the virtual audience, or in which space we place the band, like as we said before,
Yeah.
in a little room or in a cathedral or whatever. First of all, the first step for me in this direction is the to choose the panoramics.
Mm.
Let me uh, yeah. For example, this is a good, I think, example.
Mm.
This is a live recording. There is nothing added later on or anything. Is just uh, yeah. I try to deal with what I have, and this was a good example. We had a percussionist and a double bass player, but all the other instruments were playing the same melody all the time,
Mm.
and with, of course, with some improvisations here and there. But in the instrumental parts, let's listen just few seconds of the.
Mm.
جاله خرزانی را بل خوکه بشتا خو گریده رختو فشکه بشتا خو گریده رختو فشکه دوت ماما تمه.
So this is more or less what the song is about,
Mm.
sound-wise. And as you see, yeah, in the especially in the instrumental part, everybody's playing the same melody,
Mhm.
of course, with different details that each one adds. But basically, we have an unison
Yeah.
line,
Saying the
except of
same melody
yeah,
is being
yeah,
said by most.
except of the percussion, of
Yeah.
course, and the double bass that is playing some harmony. I mean, as a bass line, it has nothing to do with the melody.
Yeah.
But if we take out these two elements, let's do it. I mean, let's mute the bass and the percussion
Mm.
and see what happens. Still hear a little bit of the. Let's also mute all
Mm.
the noise and reverse for now. Um, Um, I mean, we still hear some of the percussion and the double bass because we were playing actually together. And also in this case, the mixing was also conditioned by the video because I mean this was released as a video by Labyrinth Creed. So when you are mixing sound for a video, actually you need to place the I mean most of the times we do that like that we place each element each instrument more or less where it appears in the video, no? Right, in the situation. But you can do that in a few different ways, and I mean following this distribution of the musicians, but with some exceptions. We will see what I did here. So we have first. Let's see what we have, which instruments we have here. We have, let's start from the left. We have a cello. Oh no, the cello is also playing like a counterpoint melody, so it's not clashing with the other instruments. But here we have, for example, the lira, which is this fiddle, this Cretan fiddle. And then we have the flute. Which is quite, I mean, of course it has a different timbre, but has the range is very similar. They're playing the same octave, so that's why I tend to separate them as much as I can, using the panoramics. So to put them as far as possible from each other, so you can recognize both timbres, no? They are because I mean they are adding more or less the same thing. If we put them both in the middle or near to the middle, to the center, a bit. I mean, they are still there, but I mean, if we separate them a little bit, we get a more clarity in what each one of them is doing, no? And it happened in the video to be like this. I mean, they were really far from each other, and in this, Sylvain, the flute player, was in the right, and Kelly, the lira player, she was sitting more in the left. So it reflects what's going on in the video, in the picture. So I was sitting. I'm playing here Lafta. This, sorry, yeah. Which is for those that doesn't know, the instrument is a kind of also like oud with a fretted neck that we play in Turkey and Greece mostly, and again I'm playing the same line, but of course the nature of my instrument is quite different because it's a instrument and it has more attack and I consider my instrument more like accompanying. I said before that I don't believe so much in that concept, but in this case, since I'm adding also a part of rhythm, no, because I have this possibility of actually play sometimes tones and chords, so it's more central. And actually, I was sitting in the center of the stage more or less. So it makes sense to keep the Lafta in the middle. I used two microphones. So this is Efrén left and Efrén right, and they are a bit open. You see, left and right a little bit. Yes. So still you hear the instrument in the middle, but it's a bit wider.
Mm.
Let's hear how, this is how it sounds having both microphones in the center, but if you do like this, you get more this space, this stereo image.
Yes.
It's still in the center, but it's wider. The picture. So we have already three elements that are not competing with each other. I mean,
Yes.
for different reasons. And then we have what else? We have yeah, we have a Leonor's Hardy-Gardy,
Yeah.
which has two. I mean, it was recorded with using there's a microphone signal
Yeah.
and the pickup signal.
Yeah.
Much more nasal and artificial, but it helps. I mean, combined with the microphone signal, we have now two different signals. This is only the microphone. This is only the pickup. And combined, it sounds like. To me, it sounds still quite natural, and it has this nasal sound that actually helps to be heard. It's a bit aggressive when you solo it, but
Yes.
actually with in the whole picture, it makes this instrument to how to say, to pop up, no, from the. So let's listen how it sounds together with all the rest that we see so far. And then we have the other two elements that are the bass, the double bass, which is playing a bass line, actually, an actual bass line. So it will never do it. I mean, there is no conflict with with all the melodic instruments because it's a different story. Nothing to do with the melody. So we have the cello, which is playing, I think, some other counterpoint or something like that. Sorry. It's like a different counterpoint. So it's again, it's not there is no conflict with the rest. So this project was quite complicated in this sense of sharing the instruments in the stereo field, because so there were many unisons going on in the concert, and many instruments playing similar lines. No, so this is quite challenging. This is a challenge that we face all the time in this kind of music, but in pop music, for example, you very rarely you will have this, or in jazz, is even more rare, no? This unison
Mm.
thing, which
Yeah.
for us is the base of this music, you know. It's
Hmm.
so this is
Interesting.
interesting also, yeah. And
Yeah.
and of course we have here some percussion. This the percussionist, he was playing like
Darbuka.
he had darbuka and bendir at the same time. He had
Mm.
this stand for the bendir, so it's like always playing this combination of two.
Mm.
The bendir that was stand, the darbuka. So here again, I did a bit of panning, so the bendir is a lead slightly to the left, and the darbuka slightly to the right. Not so much because in general, I try to keep the most basic instruments and the instruments that are providing the fundaments. I mean
Mm.
the ground to the music
Mm.
more in the center. This is something that has to do, I think, with also with
Sure.
the, the psychoacoustics. I mean,
Yeah.
usually we what I have noticed is that we like more when the basic things of each song, for example, yeah, the double bass, the percussion, the voice as well, they are
Mm.
in the center of the spectrum. So they keep you, they provide they hold the rest of
Yeah.
the.
Mm.
So while the most the lines or the elements that are more they are more like a decoration or an ornament to the main idea of the song, can
Mm.
be more to the sides, no?
Interesting. Interesting. Efren, just quick questions. You
Mm.
talk about right and left. What about inside or above or below or how do you manage this?
Yes, for example, the distance
Mm.
between the listener and
Mm.
the musician. So, in the sense that you mentioned that trying to bring depth, not only left and right, but this dimension also of how close to us or far away
Mm.
is, is each musician. Um, there are, I mean, the most basic tool that we have to create this illusion is the reverse, no? I mean, because this is actually what happens in real life. If you
Yes.
are in a huge building,
Mm.
even in a temple, no, or a cathedral, or actually, I play this what they call early music or medieval
Mm.
music, and we play very often actually in spaces like this with a huge reverb tail, no?
Yes.
So I'm very used to this sound. But even if you play in a very resonant space like a church, for example, even though if you are very close to the musician, you will hear the direct sound of the instrument very clearly with all the detail. And of course, in the background, there will be the resonance of the building.
Yeah.
While if you go far away from the musician, this direct sound will be softer and softer, and you will hear the instrument more integrated into
Mm.
this bubble of sound of
Yeah.
resonance and echo, no, that happens in this kind of buildings.
Mm.
So this is something that we can emulate also. Maybe I can change um, again project. Yeah, we can go back to or maybe let's open a new one. This is the one I told you that it was recorded actually exactly where I'm sitting now.
Okay.
And this is a very simple one. It's only Eleanor and myself uh, playing live. She's playing hurdy-gurdy,
Mm.
but using just a microphone, and uh, and me, I'm playing a bouzou actually,
Mm.
and she's singing as well. But so let's start from scratch. I mean,
Mm.
okay, the equalization and compression and all this is done, but we didn't put the musicians in any specific space. Let's listen just a couple of minutes. This is more or less the color of the song. By the way, I did something here that might be interesting. She in some places she actually hits her instrument as a percussion instrument. So for this for those sections,
Yes.
what I did is I split the track. This is the original Hardy track,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Which requires a specific EQ and processing.
Uh-huh.
And then in some places she will play percussion. So I understood very quickly that these parts, I mean, if we want to take advantage of she actually playing the percussion, so
Yeah.
it requires a totally different approach again. So I gave a lot of bass. Let's check what they did. Yeah, look the EQ curve. So I'm boosting a lot the low end of the hurdy-gurdy to make it sound like a percussion, which is what actually her purpose. No, but
Yes.
but if I will do that when she's playing normally the hurdy-gurdy as usually it's played as a melodic instrument, it wouldn't sound right. So what I did is to split the signal into two different tracks and to treat each track as a totally different instrument.
And
This
you
is
can remove unwanted frequencies in their place.
yeah, exactly. Or wanted. I mean, or to yeah. To this is a quite wild EQ. I mean, it's like plus 23 dBs is quite wild, quite extreme, but it worked here, and it provides this this pulse to the
So the
track.
lesson is to try and
Yeah,
see what happens, right? As a result.
yeah. And you see, this is the EQ curve of the rest of the song, of the actual melody in the hurdy-gurdy.
Yes.
I did quite the opposite. I remove a lot of low end because the instrument didn't need that, and a bit of high end as well here. So it's quite opposite, no? Quite the opposite. So
Interesting.
for each section of the song, there is a totally different approach. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this, about creating these spaces, no? I mean,
Yeah.
here, for example, we have very few elements. Let's focus on this section, on this verse, and see what happens. Now we are listening the dry version of it. I mean, we are listening what the microphones captured here in this space. Actually, they are very close mics, and they are really close to the source, so they didn't capture everything that is happening around in the room.
Yeah.
So if we want to bring back some life, some resonance of the space itself, we can use all sort of reverb. For example, here even though it's a very simple track, and I'm using 3 different reverbs
Mm.
and 2 different delays. So
Yes.
the 3 reverbs I'm using is a Lexicon LXP. Sorry, what it is? Yes, which I use mostly for the when I want to emulate a very small space.
Mm-hmm.
Let's listen what it adds to the voice.
Yeah.
Let's listen in solo the voice and to the email.
Yeah.
Send it to the river. Sorry.
Mm.
This is the right no the dry voice.
Yeah.
Now with the very short reverb.
Mm.
It sounds in a totally different space, right?
Yeah.
First of all, it's far away from us,
Mm.
and it sounds like a medium small room, you
Mm.
know. So of course I'm sending a lot to I mean I'm adding a lot of reverb now just to hear what's the difference.
Yeah.
Probably I will do it in a more subtle way at the end, but now it's just to see what we get from each one of these reverbs. This is another reverb I use a lot all the time, which is it's called Altiverb. I mean, it's a bit too. Maybe we can put also some links so everybody can
Mm.
hear some tutorials on YouTube or whatever,
Yes.
because it's quite complicated to explain it now. But
Yeah.
it's a
Just
plugin
to
that
get the
I
idea. Just to
yeah
get the
yeah
idea
yeah
for now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a more realistic, the most realistic actually plugin reverb plugin that I know
Mm.
so far, and it's supposed to put the musician in that real space. Actually, this is a real concert hall. I don't know where in Germany, in Baden-Baden, and let's compare again the dry signal of the vocal with this concert hall reverb.
Mm.
Of course, there is too much reverb now, but
Mm.
it's different. No, it's more. I mean, it sounds quite realistic to me, although it's not real. But we could decide, no, that we
Yeah.
want the musicians to be in such a space, and then now the third reverb is even. I mean, this is very little realistic. Is much bigger. It's a very long one and very bright.
Yeah.
But sometimes I like to put a little bit of this one to give a bit more of this brightness and a very wide space, even in very low, in a very little amount.
Mm.
You can't even really hear it, but it's there, adding some ambience to the.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a combination of these three reverbs, sorry. Actually, I mix it like this. Something like that, for example. So
Interesting.
yeah, so we can decide with this kind of techniques to where to in which space and how far or how close to us. We want to put each element, no? So sometimes I mean, the most of the times in the kind of music I worked in, we tend to emulate reality. I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't process the signal, but we try to the productions to sound quite realistic.
And convincing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's not always the case. I mean, sometimes we might want to, some of the elements to sound very weird, or coming
Exactly.
from space. I don't know. So even, I mean, that's why when you are mixing in front of the musicians of the band, is sometimes it gets really complicated, because all the process. I mean, if I show you what I'm doing, for example, in the buzouk,
Yeah.
I did use sorry um, a delay that, of course, is very subtle in the final mix.
Yeah.
But if you hear it while I'm mixing it, I mean, it can be a bit scary. I mean, there is. Okay, this is too much, but sometimes I use these weird effects in a very subtle way to add more ambience, but you will never hear them in my productions. You will never recognize them. That they never will notice them.
Yeah.
Better say. But sometimes they add this extra depth, no? I don't know if I ever even used it finally in the final mix, but so this is some
Interesting.
ways to create spaces, no?
Yeah.
And I mean, our choices about which kind of spaces and combinations of instruments we want to create is it has to do also with the approach, of each project. I mean, sometimes we want to be more realistic, like a documentary, so to say.
Yes.
And some others we want to be like a science fiction movie. I mean, something
Yeah.
that is clearly not realistic, but artistically it might be beautiful, no, or interesting, or yeah.
Interesting. So, Efren, talking about the source, when you said the microphone is
Yeah.
close to the source, or when you talked about the darbuka or the drum, where you said I want to hear both the sounds and both characteristics, is there anything to share, like a picture? How do you, for example, record
Sure,
any instrument, just to give an idea to the audience
sure, yeah,
of why do we have sometimes to put several mics and for what reason,
yeah. Let
which
me
will
share.
come later in the mixing.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, I have here a folder with the pictures I use in my Labyrinth Online seminars. Can you see it?
Yes.
So let me, for example, show a few examples.
Mm. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So we do have condenser dynamic.
yeah. For
Yeah.
example, let's start with the oud,
Yes.
uh, which is a very complicated instrument, in my opinion, to record. As I said before, not for solo recordings. I mean, actually, it's an instrument that if it's a good, if you have a good player and a good instrument, is delightful. No, I mean, is one of my favorite sounds. And but the thing is that it's a quite resonant instrument. No, is a very deep instrument with a lot of resonance in the low register mostly.
Yeah.
So the problem comes when you mix it. For example, one of the worst scenarios for the oud, in my opinion, is imagine oud plus cello plus bendir, because there are three instruments that share a very similar range
Frequency.
of frequencies, which is like middle, low frequencies, and the most of the information, the sound information that these three instruments give is there, no, in the same area.
Yes.
So that's why I I very rarely will record an oud with only one instrument, one microphone. Sorry. As you see here, can you see the
Yes.
cursor? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So here we have. This is if I will have only one microphone, this is probably the position, the placement of the microphone I will use probably, because it's in the most of the cases. First of all, I would like to say that really each oud, I own 7 different ouds, and each one of them, even from the same maker sometimes,
Yeah.
has a different quality, really, and it's not that I'm obsessed with that. I am obsessed actually, but it's true, no, each one of them has a different response, no,
Yeah.
to so. But in the most of the cases, this one, if I will, if I needed to choose one placement, will be here, because here normally you have a good balance between all the deeper sound of the wood that comes out from the rosette, from the whole sound holes, and yeah, the most of the times here you have a good balance between definition, volume, and depth. And here usually, this is when I have more than one microphone. This is a quite common setting for the couple of microphones, for the pair.
Yes.
And this actually, if you listen only to this microphone, what it gets is quite horrible, quite awful, because it's actually it's quite similar to the sound of the pickup. It's too aggressive, too harsh. You don't have a lot of bass. It's like sounds like this, no? But the other side, it gives you a lot of very clear attack and definition, very good definition. So I will never use only that microphone, but if I can combine it with the other one, let's say I will put a 70%. I will use a 70% of this signal and a 30% of that one, in order to add some definition, especially when the wood is surrounded by other instruments, no, that
Interesting.
can can cancel some of the frequencies of the
It is
or this
interesting.
definition, no. So don't think that because this microphone is taking a not so pleasant um, area or frequency range of the instrument is gonna sound bad. No, I mean, what is gonna add to the whole picture is gonna help a lot in many cases, no. And this happens with a lot of here, for example, let me
This for sure came from a long, long
yes,
experimentation
yeah, exactly.
exercise.
This is a davul. I don't know how you call it in Arabic. Tabal,
Double, yeah.
tabel, yeah. So And here, um, I was talking about that when I mentioned that when we talk about the tabla, the Indian tabla.
Yeah.
Sometimes I combine here in the right side. There are two different microphones. This is a Neumann KM 184
Mm-hmm.
that I use for nearly everything, and a dynamic is a microphone quite cheap and that everybody knows, which is a Shure SM for 50 F58. Yeah.
Yeah.
So their nature is totally different. The characteristics, the color they have is
Mm.
totally different. So being this condenser microphone much more, yeah, round, capturing all the nuances and details of the scheme, blah blah blah.
Mm.
And the other instrument is the totally opposite. Is quite harsh, and it will enhance a lot the attack of the
Mm.
stick on the skin.
Yeah.
But it's also useful, no? Because in reality, when we hear a davul, it's always in a situation that you are outside I mean, outdoors,
Mm.
and they hit it really loud, and you need this, even if you use it for a
Mm.
recording that is very civilized, and I mean, you need this wildness of the instrument. I mean, I
Yeah.
want to if I use a double in a song, it's because I want this wild sound, no, and more aggressive.
Mm.
So I will try to get this sound by using microphones that are more aggressive, somehow, no. So
Mm.
that's why I mean, not always the most expensive microphone is the best, no, for
Yeah.
recording certain instruments. Yeah. Same here with the darbuka.
Mm.
Yeah, I, I used the same trick for the high,
Yeah.
for the tech,
Mm.
and for the doom another condenser in the bottom of the instrument.
Wow.
Yeah,
This is
many
so
many,
great,
many.
really. I really recommend that those interested join this seminar. It's an
Yeah, for
opportunity,
yeah,
really, and I really enjoyed it big time myself.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, there are many tricks. I mean, that's why I really insist that a good sounding production comes,
Mm.
from really hundreds, if not thousands, of little choices all the time, all the time, all the time.
Yeah, and Efren, are there many students or many people going in this direction for this type of music nowadays?
I will say in the future, I think we will see more and more, of course, specialized sound engineers, but sound engineers in this kind of music.
Mm.
But the most of them, I feel that they will come from the music itself. I mean, they will be musicians that have also
Okay.
this
Mm.
say
Interesting.
this will to, because you know at least in my country, in Spain, when I was a teenager or younger, there was not even one good sound
Mm.
engineering school in the whole country. Now
Mm.
I know that there are some of them, but for sure not specialized in this kind of traditional styles. But I think it's something that will happen with the time. Also, I think people nowadays is more educated in
Mm.
the sense that they are more aware that there is more music beyond rock and jazz and classical music. So
Yeah.
so they're more familiar slowly with the other kind of sounds and and approaches to music. No?
Interesting. Do you like to go back to the examples on Reaper?
Yes,
Hopefully,
of course.
I'm not bothering you with
No,
this
no,
long
no.
session. I'm really enjoying. I'm sure
This is
our
like
viewers
breathing
are.
for me. This is like breathing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, if you want, we can explain other.
Yeah, let's go through them like some very few highlights here and there because
Okay.
I mean you have massive knowledge and experience to share on this.
Yes, it's a pity that, I mean,
Mm.
for each one of these details, we could talk for weeks, really.
Yes.
But maybe I don't know if you have any specific questions or yeah. about the space again.
Mm.
This is I think this is the last album that I mixed, which is
Yeah.
a Turkish ilahi recording that was also very done in a very traditional way, just with all the musicians playing in the same space.
Mm.
And actually, I think it was like kind of a really high, a really big space, like a
Mm.
by itself already sounded like a, like huge. I added some little reverb for some of the instruments. Here we have this is a very, I mean, the setup is very traditional. We just, one group of six musicians playing in circle in a huge building.
Mm.
So we have already, these tracks are the close mics of each instrument. We have bendir, kudum, lafta, oud. I split the oud into the two different tracks.
Mm.
So for the taksim that the oud player plays in the he's a Nejati
Mm.
plays in the middle of the song of the track. I create a new track. So as I explained it before for the Hardy of Eleanor, for the Taxima, I felt that it needs a different approach. Maybe a big. I was talking about this before, actually. No,
Yes.
when you are part of an ensemble, sometimes you need to sacrifice, so to say, some part, some characteristic of your sound in order to make it fit with the other instruments. And
Mm.
here, for example, we had one oud, one lafta, and two nays plus the percussion.
Mm.
So when the oud was playing in the context of ensemble, let's compare what the two. This is the EQ of the oud in the ensemble.
Mm.
Which, I mean, I was boosting a bit all the high end and the middle, and a little bit of the very low end, a little bit. But probably, if we compare it to the yeah, it's not very different, but the bass are a bit more bass. And here I don't know why. Probably because he was playing louder and more aggressive. I cut a little bit of the middle frequencies that are more give this aggressiveness. So and of course the send to the effects is a bit different, and the volume and everything. So everything changes a little bit, but there's many changes between these two sections. I mean, the main role of the oud that is playing with the other instruments, and the solo setting. No? But the thing here is that what I wanted to talk about is also about the ambient mics. For example, here we have all these close mic for each instrument, but we have also these two tracks. Let's listen solo. These two tracks. There's a couple of mics that are far away from the band, but they capture the whole sound. No, so we is there we call them ambient tracks.
Mm.
This is sounds. Of course, we don't have any details here. I mean, we don't have any definition. It's very how to say.
Mm. Like a
Yeah,
satellite picture.
yeah, exactly. And also, yeah, here from these microphones, I cut all the bass frequencies because we had already a lot from the direct mics, especially
Yeah.
from the oud and the percussions that were really very full. So from these ambient mics, I wanted only the middle and high frequencies, and this was how it sounded in the very beginning.
Yeah.
fine, but in order to keep more of the direct bass frequencies, especially of the wood and lafta, I prefer to sacrifice all this range of frequencies from the ambient mics. So the direct mics will be more full of these frequencies. This
Yeah.
is the and this is the lafta. And here's the opposite. I really boost the very low end of the lafta. It was the instrument that was playing the lowest notes.
Yeah.
So it provides this fundaments, no, to the rest of to the melodic side of the. And of course the percussions also have a lot of bass. And but this is how the direct mics sound, including the nails. This is just the direct sound of each microphone, but then if we add the ambient track, which is a stereo track. Let's add step by step the ambient track, so to see what's the difference, what it adds to the sound. This is we start without any ambient track, and then yeah. We have endless options, no? I mean, and then again, it's another choice we have to take. I mean, how much of this ambience we want, because of course, I really feel that it makes more realistic. Actually, it's a real ambient track. So it was recorded in the place with a pair of microphones. So it adds this liveness, no, to the and yeah, and liveness and it makes it more realistic. But besides that, then
with this, you feel
we
inside with the group, with the band.
yeah, it's more realistic, more yeah.
Yeah.
But then we decide that of course this is again something that you have to discuss with a client or you know the musician that hires you to do this job, or with your colleagues if you are doing it for yourself. What are the aesthetics of the project, no? And for example here we added some artificial reverb to the I mean we used this ambient tracks, of course, but
Yeah.
then we added a bit of more like large whole reverb. Let's hear how it was at the end.
Yeah.
So we have this reverb that I think every instrument is sent to the same reverbs, so we keep listening to each instrument in the same space. We
Yeah.
want to keep this realism.
Yeah.
This, for example, is a very long reverb that I added
Mm.
in a very little amount, not so much, but is giving a bit more of space to the and a wider space.
Mm.
This is without the extra reverb. Now with.
Mm.
So again I did this trick that I do quite often of combining actually here is four different reverbs in with totally different settings to add more depth to the mix.
Uh-huh.
But the basics of this specific production was quite traditional. No, I mean six musicians playing together in a circle, and that's it. Very very simple in this simple production in that sense. No?
Yeah. But this traditional thing is not an easy thing to do.
No.
See.
Actually, it's quite, and of course you need very skilled
Yeah.
musicians, no, to it's. I mean, it does. It's not easy at all to play good and to play together and to do improvisations that make sense, no, and
Mm.
but it's also very interesting as a sound engineer to get involved into this kind of
Mm.
uh, projects and I like every approach really, like from working by yourself at home,
Mm.
like doing multi-tracking to play live. I mean, I think, as I said before, I compare them with I compare them to a documentary approach or a
Mm.
science fiction movie. I mean,
Uh-huh.
and you can have I mean, you can make art in a documentary too, no? And in a science
And this
fiction
is the
too.
way
I mean,
you see things, the way
yeah,
say it your way, right? The
yeah,
way you perceive them and you
yeah,
believe this is the way the concert has performed
yeah, yeah,
or it
yeah,
should have been.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and
Interesting.
it opens also a lot of field for for experimentation. And this is also a nice advantage, no, of
Mm.
home studio. You can try so many things, and
Mm.
it's also very easy to overdo it sometimes, no, because the options really are endless. So it's
Exactly.
yeah.
But also, Efren, one advantage that I see here for people learning this, not for the sake of doing sound engineering work, even for themselves to just be aware of the sound and to appreciate, and is also giving them a muscle for focus.
Mm,
It's like a
exactly.
very, very explicit way to focus on in tiny things, either the space or the instrument or the nature of the instrument, the way you pick the sound, and you just keep turning things on and off and changing the gauge, and this will teach you even outside the software,
Mm.
right? Am I
Of
right in
course.
this?
No, of course, absolutely. Yeah, then you understand. Yeah, you don't see the music anymore as a. It was not my case because I never saw it as a. I never considered myself an oud player or a hurdy-gurdy player or a auto player or nothing. No, it's more like a. I really like this vision, and I share it. I feel I connect more with these kind of musicians that don't say themselves are, I'm a singer, I'm a good player. No, this is for me, instrument in English and Spanish also, and as the etymology of the word instrument, I don't know how it's in Arabic,
Mm.
but the is like a tool.
Exactly.
It's like a
Medium. It's a
yeah,
medium.
yeah, yeah. Synonymous of a tool, no?
Yes.
So of course we love our instruments. I'm so
Mm.
passionate about
Mm.
the organology and all that, but I try to not forget that they are just a means, no,
Mm.
to a mediums, yeah, as you say, no, to
Mm.
express ourselves. So I really don't see myself as a even a musician sometimes.
Not
It's
yet.
more like so no, in the sense of a instrumentalist,
Exactly. I
and
see.
and actually that's why I play few instruments, because I don't feel especially. It's not that I don't feel connected to them. I'm very connected to my instruments, but
Yeah.
not in a way that puts limits to me.
Exactly. Basically, Efren, you always emphasized on the message of music.
Mm.
If we see it from mixing and sound engineering perspective, or now you are highlighting that these are tools to express me as
Mm.
a musician or as an artist or a composer
Mm.
or a band or so on. So
Yeah.
it's the message, right? What do you want to say? What is the music is saying? This is like a main thing in
Yes.
here.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mm.
It's a very good point, I think, because we tend, at least here in Europe, I don't know in your place or in other places in the world,
Yeah.
but here where I live, we traditionally we tend to have this dualistic thinking.
Mm.
No, I
Mm.
mean, you can see only things compared to others, or you can judge things. I mean, this is salty, this is sweet, this is
Uh-huh.
white, this is black, this is cold, this is hot, and in this sense, we see music as, for example, how many times I hear this comment, no? This guy plays nice, but he's too intellectual, or while I really, I feel myself that I never had this feeling. Of course, I repeat it as a parrot because
Mm.
I'm born here, and every the most of the people believes that,
Mm.
but I know that sounds a bit disconnected to the point, but what I mean with that is that for me, um, all the passion, the inspiration, the spontaneous feelings, and the more emotional
Yeah.
is not it doesn't go against the intellectual, the mind. For me, it's really possible to combine both worlds.
Exactly.
So for me, they are not even separate. So that's why I
Yeah.
think they are you can combine them, because basically they are not two different things.
Yeah.
And in this sense, for me, really,
Mm.
I really try to. I mean, actually, the only thing that is interesting for me in all this world of sound engineering is the artistic
Mm.
thing, the artistic side,
Mm.
because really, I think we talked already about that in the previous interview. I didn't have any academic training as a sound engineer. I was working straight from day one as an assistant of my teacher, but
Yes.
he never taught me in this sense
Mm.
of lessons, or
Mm.
or courses, not at all, just very practical, very
Yeah.
from day one.
Mm.
And so I learned really only exactly what was needed
Mm.
because my goal was to put my music into this form, of
Mm.
at the time it was like compact CDs
Mm.
and all this kind of
Mm.
support.
Mm.
So what I want to say with that is that I try to never lose this focus, no, on the artistic part.
Yeah.
Everything that we add, everything that we take out, everything that we the the way sorry the
Mm.
the way we process instruments,
Mm.
should serve the final purpose, the ultimate purpose, which is, the expression, the
Yeah.
artistic expression. So,
Mm.
and it's quite dangerous for us as sound engineers to fall in this trap, no, of
Mm.
the technology, and trying to follow all the trends, no, of the, because the technology goes so fast, no,
Yeah.
and you can get confused sometimes, no, because
Again, the
yeah,
technology is a medium, is a
exactly,
facility for
exactly,
us.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly. Interesting, Efren.
So sometimes it's hard to combine. From one side, I really like the aesthetics and the ideas behind
Mm.
some styles of music that are being here for. I play medieval music
Mm.
from the 11th century,
Mm.
and at the same time, I have to deal with the most modern technology that you can find in the in informatics and sound. So sometimes, but I really put the focus on that, on not forgetting, what is the ultimate purpose, which is creating art. No, so
Exactly.
yeah,
Interesting. Efren, do you want to go back to any other example, or this is enough?
whatever you
I
you
am
you think. I
fine.
mean,
I am fine. I can't get enough.
no,
If
no,
you
it's
like,
okay.
just tell me quickly about the ayin, if you like. The ayin
Okay.
experience.
Let's
Hmm.
listen a little bit. This is
What is so
now
special about this ayin composition? And
now I'm
yeah,
talking in behalf of my friend Christos Barbas. I hope he can forgive me,
yeah. He will be
because
our guest soon, so
okay. This is a project that was presented. Actually, it's the only time that we played it live in like 1 year ago, I think, in
mm,
Labyrinth, Catalonia.
yeah,
Uh, and for those that doesn't know about what the ayin means, is this kind of form, a compositional form that
mm,
we use in Turkey, mostly for the ceremonies of the whirling dervishes, for the Mevlevi dervish.
yeah,
And is a very specific form of music that has some it's a set of different songs that are fixed, no, like introductory pes revs and different different sections that have this specific also rhythm and are written and composed using one.
like it's a fossil in its own.
Yeah.
Mm,
Like they're composed in one specific central maqam, and of course there are all sorts of modulations, and
mm,
that's why also I recommend them as a tool for music students, because it's a very nice way to. It's music that is technically is not that challenging, because it's the most of the time the tempo is not very fast, so you can if you read notes, you can
follow.
do it easily.
Mm,
You can follow, but it gives you a lot of ideas for modulations and to broaden, the spectrum of each maqam. It's incredible in this sense. So
mm,
Christos, what he did, he wrote one of the few ayins, because it's a form that somehow was at some point, I don't know how many decades ago, was a bit stuck. I mean, there are some ayins that were composed by big masters, and we still play them to our days.
mm,
And so it's a very challenging exercise also as a composer, because
mm,
you have so many rules to follow. Also, you have to make the lyrics fit, no,
mm,
which are is from Mevlana Rumi in I mean you need to use these words.
mm,
So he wrote this ayin in the Makamani
mm,
Havan, and we recorded. We played it live I mean live without audience,
mm,
but together for Labyrinth Catalonia. Is
mm.
available also maybe we can add also the link later on.
Yes,
Yeah, it's available in. I mean, you can listen and
YouTube.
watch the video.
Mm.
And yeah, and the challenge was to record is a very demanding style of music,
Mm.
and we recorded it with some of Christos students and also some collaborators that we have there in Catalonia.
Yeah.
And so I was the responsible for mixing. I played the kudum also in the
Mm.
concert. That was one old dream of mine to play kudum because I love this instrument. It looks simple and it looks it's technically simple to play, but really the focus you need to have and the,
Mm.
the tempo, no, the safe tempo, because you actually are giving the tempo to the whole ensemble.
Mm.
Is it was really challenging, but I enjoyed so much, and I will show you now the session
Mm.
that I used to mix that. So it's quite challenging in the sense that here is like what we said before.
Mm.
There is no harmony at all, as traditionally it is,
Yeah.
and there are, I don't know, 10 or 12 instruments playing in unison. So
Mm.
we can see how we deal with that.
Mm.
And
Maybe
now,
some flavor. Give us some
yeah, yeah.
flavor.
So here we have the tracks,
Mm.
and yeah, all this there is two. There is only a little trick I use here, which is not real.
Mm.
Uh, Here we have two, basically two percussion tracks.
Mm.
Of course, we hear everything through those mics because we were sitting again in a circle, but quite close to each other. So we call it bleeding, no? When
Mm.
you can hear other instruments from your mic.
Yes.
So here we have the kudum that I play, and here this.
This is like Kani Karaja.
I wish, I wish. And Isabel is playing the bendir. We are playing really unison. I mean, we don't play different patterns. It's really unison. It's just doubling the same. So it's nice to have two percussions because we are holding the whole building, no, the whole
Yeah.
temple of music. And the only trick I use in this song, because I really love the sound of the zeal of the jingles
Yeah.
of the dire that we use in this Mevlevi music. So, but I couldn't bring it to the concert. So what the only thing I did is to double what Isabel played afterwards when I was back home
Mm.
with this instrument that sounds like this. This sounding, which is very characteristic of this. So I just double what Isabel played, and I did a quite heavy equalization. So we get from my track only the right sound of the jingles,
Yeah.
right? The only thing that is the only thing that is like a trick, that is a production trick, but it's very subtle.
Mm.
It's not really changing anything.
Yeah.
And but then we have all these instruments playing in unison.
Yeah.
So we have a lafta here, a tarhu, that is this instrument that Ross Daly developed with
Yeah.
the Australian maker.
Yeah.
This is a taksim that was in the end, so we can just delete it.
Yeah.
And then there is a tambur also, like Turkish. Okay, and
Yeah.
then we have a canon that yeah, we have a microphone and the DI, I mean
Yeah.
pickup. So we have the pickup.
Mm.
And here is nice because I don't like so much the sound of the pickup, but at least we have the sound of the canon very isolated, so we can
Mm.
boost it if we need. And then we have the microphone sound.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
we have again in the cello we have the same thing, microphone and DI.
Yeah.
So this is mic and the DI. And then fornace, we have fornace, Christos, that is actually louder in the mix.
Yeah.
And then other three names that are from students of Christos. Playing different octaves.
Yeah.
This is and here it's a bit challenging also to decide what to do because this is a large ensemble. It's four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 unison instruments that are playing for 45 minutes in total unison. And but this is what it is. I mean, we can't. I mean, it's useless to try even to try to make every instrument to sound like to hear every little nuance of each instrument. No, it's here the concept is that we create a full sound which contains all the particularities of each instrument. I mean, we will try to get a beautiful and round sound that even if we don't it's really impossible to hear what the third nail does all over.
Yeah.
So the concept is here is more like a block. It's like a wall of sound, as we say, and that's it. So the only thing that I will do here is try to enhance what each one of those elements like can provide to the whole. So for example,
Yeah.
the cello is the deepest instrument here, right? The one with more powerful bass and more defined bass, and he's a very good player as well. So I will try to get from the cello this very bass sound, very round sound that will add this all the low end, will be the cello that will deal with it. Then from the nails, I did a bit the opposite. I mean, if you see the EQ of each, sorry, uh,
In this
yeah,
case, you are a novelist, Efren. You are writing a whole plot,
no,
how the story is said, who are the
no,
like main characters, and all of these things, like a full novel in here.
yeah. No, but it's what you said before. Is a good point actually. Never thought about it, because this process of mixing or handling recording teaches us also how to be so analytic in terms of sound. Not it's like actually is a training that you need to do.
Yes.
I mean, it's like ear training, as we say. No, it's very useful for musicians, but if you happen to be also a sound engineer, you need it even to you
Yeah.
need to be even more accurate, no?
Yes.
Because it's even beyond music. It's just pure sound sometimes, no? And yeah, so it makes you. I think I became a better arranger after I became a sound engineer, because then you understand what each instrument can provide to the whole. No, for example, the nails, we can't get any now. This is the Equalize EQ plugin that I use for the nails.
Yeah.
The nails can't provide obviously the bass, the bottom, no, or area of the music of the sound, because they can't, they don't reach those frequencies that are so easy for the cello, no. So if you see here, I really cut everything. This is a, a low cut filter, because I mean all these low frequencies that we get from the Nace microphones are just, uh, something that we get
Derivative.
from the other instruments. I mean, from that
Mm.
if you hear now it's bypassed the it's only the four microphones of the four nails.
Yeah.
I can hear also the cello there, the percussions. So,
Yes.
but if we use this low cut, all this area suddenly disappears. It's there still. I mean, you can hear it a little bit, but we are cleaning up a bit
Yeah.
and actually, if we cut all these bass frequencies, the noise doesn't get affected because they don't there is no information from the noise in that
Mm.
area.
Yes.
So we are helping to separate the tracks and to separate also the roles. So what the cello provides, of
Mm.
course, the bass, no,
Interesting.
and the nails provide the high frequencies, the air, the more wind, this windy sound,
Mm.
and the definition of the very high instruments.
Mm.
Then the here, if we want, for example, the canon,
Mm.
and the laughter and the tambour to be here,
Mm.
we need to enhance a little bit their nature, which is already there, which is the attack
Yeah.
the of the bizrap, no, on the instrument,
Yes.
which the cello or the nails doesn't have.
Mm-hmm.
So here we usually, if I will record a tambour solo, I will try to get a softer sound, maybe a more elegant, more round sound. But here maybe the it's better to take advantage actually of this more aggressive attack that the tambour has compared to the nails, and give to the tambour this role of clack, clack,
Yes.
clack, clack, clack,
Mm.
clack. This is what is interesting from the tambour canon and so here I'm enhancing a little bit those frequencies, the middle and
Yeah.
high end. So I'm helping to this through this process and this track to the whole ensemble to have a bit more of definition in the attack.
Yeah.
Clang, 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 clang. Yeah. So let's hear these three elements together: the canon, tambour, and laughter.
Yes.
And as you can see here, the what we were talking about
Yeah.
in the very first example
Mm.
about the panoramics. See
Yes.
here, this is laughter and the tambour that share this kind of quality of the very strong attack and bright,
Mm.
and a kind of similar
Nature.
quality. They are totally opposite in the
Mm.
panoramic. They're hard left and hard right, right?
Yes.
So you can even though they sound quite similar, you can recognize the differences between them also
Yes.
by putting by separating them a lot.
Yes.
And so they are like groups of roles, no? Like the nails have their role, the cello has its role, the
Right.
black instruments have, and the percussions the same.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah.
Very interesting.
So for those that are interested, they can go to this video on
We'll
YouTube and
share
watch
it
it.
with the
Yeah,
interview, and it's really a great piece. Thanks to Christos, to Efren, to everybody really who participated in this experience.
it was really, really, really nice because also,
Yeah.
some of the musicians are not really professional in the sense that they don't play this music all the time or so on. So it's and the energy was like, okay, it's very hard, it's very challenging. What are here we doing? Playing this music that is so challenging, but let's do it. No, let's do it. And also was very nice to play live after a long time because of the lockdown and this. So it was very touching experience.
Yeah. Excellent. Efren, I think we enjoyed a great experience, a lot of learning in here. You shared a lot. Uh, you are so
My
generous.
pleasure.
Few more questions before we conclude. How about this?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So very happy.
I think we even touched into some stereotype
Mm.
concepts and myths about sound engineering and about many things. In addition, I would like to ask if you had sometimes thought about an album that's there in the market and you wanted to maybe touch it because you are so
Ah.
upset or maybe unhappy about it and you you remastered it. Did
No,
that happen? No need to mention examples, I mean.
yes, 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 yes. This will be more like a mastering. No, this is the process after mixing is a bit too complicated to to summarize it in such a
Mm,
short time. But what we do with the mastering is when we are satisfied with the mixing of
mm,
each individual element, as we saw
yeah.
right now, then the mastering, what we do we do several things in the mastering process, but one of them is to improve something. There is room for improvement or correct some things maybe that
Mm,
went wrong in the mixing, but also to make if for example we are working on an album that is, for example, 10 tracks.
mm,
We try to these 10 tracks that are supposed to be listened in a row to
mm,
be to sound coherent, not to each other. I mean,
mm,
and but also what we do is what I have done for albums that I because I'm such a obsessed of the sound.
yeah.
So sometimes when I'm listening, and actually I always listen to music using my monitor studios, my studio monitor, sorry.
Yeah.
So it means that I really need good quality to listen to music.
Mm.
I hate to listen music with cheap headphones or in the laptop. I never
On the
do that.
phone. Like some
Yeah.
people listen to music on their phone
Yeah, yeah. It's the,
speaker.
it's the problem. If they like to do it, it's totally fine, but
Mm,
don't count on me
mm,
to do it. But the thing is that I have done it a few times to have albums that I really like the music and
mm,
even the recording. I mean, it can sound quite decent, but I miss, or some frequencies are a bit too much for me, too loud. So I I do my
mm.
own version of some albums sometimes
Uh-huh.
to just to yeah, and
I,
and
mm. I'm
yeah.
sure some are like gramophone recordings or maybe rare recordings. Sometimes we need to problem solve them, right?
Yeah, this is also an issue, and
Mm,
sometimes it's more like about philosophical,
mm,
it's a philosophical beliefs sometimes, no?
mm,
Because it happened to me actually. As you, I really like to study and to study like all recordings, the oldest recordings we have for each style of music,
mm,
and sometimes the sound is so bad that it really difficults you to actually study,
mm,
so we have some tools to solve that from very simple equalization. Sometimes we can use it. I told you before our interview that I'm working on this archive. I have a huge archive of scores from each
mm,
traditional that I like,
mm,
and I'm working on also to on downloading audios with good performances of each song,
mm.
and
Interesting.
some of them are old recordings, no,
Mm,
and you can improve the sound sometimes so easily with just some EQ equalizing. but this has this purpose of pure study. I mean, the goal in these cases is just to get the sound as clear as possible, so you can actually
Learn.
see what is going on in the wood playing or violin playing. But sometimes also I had this conversation with some friend of mine. Sometimes people when 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 they use those recordings just to enjoy it, just to listen, to enjoy music as a listener, they
Mm.
prefer to leave them as they are, with all the noises and the clips and the hum and all this. It's not my case, because this is not the music. I mean, this was okay. What in at the time, what
Limitation of
50,
technology.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's not
Mm.
part of the music. I mean, in a romantic way, you could miss that, but
Mm.
I'm not romantic in this sense at all. I don't miss at all the time when we were recording in tape, because I did record in tape,
Yeah.
and I understand the romanticism of some people regarding those times, because actually it's true that for the musicians was much more challenging. I mean,
Mm.
nowadays what we have, I know that very well as a producer for other bands, is that we as a musicians, we think that we are much better than we are. Sometimes, because really you can fix nearly everything in a studio
Yeah.
nowadays. I mean, you can, and I have done this so many times for pop singers and this, no, and but not only pop singers, even traditional musicians.
Mm.
Uh, Now with this technology and these improvements,
Mm.
is quite easy sometimes to cheat, no, to
Mm.
correct things and this. So the musician plays, they go back home, and the sound engineer stays in the studio for hours trying to make it sound right, no?
Yeah.
And the what they are the romantics are right in, is that back then, really you had to actually know how to play your instrument, no, because you will play the whole song in once, and that's it, and then you go home, no, and
Yes.
there was no room for corrections or anything. I mean, of course, you always will mix the recording, but this time correction that we got so used to it, or pitch correction even, was not available at the time. So
Mm.
in this sense, I agree with the romantics
Mm.
that. But this is a choice also. We can proceed it exactly the same time, in the same way
Mm.
nowadays. I mean, we can decide, okay, we record in one take, no, the song, and that's it. We don't fix anything. We do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Efren, is it possible to show us like the a highlight of the albums that you have produced?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So for that, I will share
Yeah.
actually my Facebook page.
Mm.
Sorry, I don't have any other source of information regarding.
Because this can make our listeners go and see your albums
Yeah.
and listen and maybe learn from listening about your different tastes.
Can you see now my
Yes.
screen? Okay. So here it's not perfectly organized
Mm.
chronologically, or because here I have all the albums in which I have
Yeah.
I took part, but in many ways. For example, here this is the last album I
Mm.
w- in, that the last released album in which I
Mm.
participate is from Stelios Petakis.
Mm.
Uh, it's called Spondi. Is a Cretan music. I mean,
Mm.
his compositions like 50-50, combining his compositions with traditional Cretan songs.
Yes.
And I feel really proud of the sound of this album. I really love it, and the playing is incredible. And for me, it's such a honor, no, to train myself as a sound engineer by listening this music. No, it's
Mm.
incredible. And this is the album we talked about before.
Yes.
with this Turkish music
Yeah.
ilahis.
Mm.
So, but this is albums that I just mixed. No,
Yeah.
some others I played. This is a soundtrack. Yeah, yeah. Calcutta is a soundtrack in which I just play mandolin, nothing to do with what I do normally.
Mm.
But for example, this is another album that I mixed from Iranian percussionist Zia Tabassian. It's a very interesting one, and it was such a coincidence because at the time he called me to mix his album, I was studying usul a lot. I mean the Persian and Ottoman rhythm patterns,
Yes.
and this album is all about it. It's just percussion and some voices, but more like reciting the rhythms,
Mm.
and there are improvisations and compositions based on the ancient usul.
I like it
It's a
really.
very,
I listened to it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very very impressive actually.
Mm.
And yes, in some others I just played. This is also an album from a folk Galician band
Mm.
that I did just the mastering.
Mm.
It's called Sangre de Muérdago. But and then also here I did the mastering for Katerina Papadopoulou, an
Mm.
incredible singer from Greece, and other these are all their projects. And here in the first section are the my own projects. I mean, this is
Mm.
the last personal album I released with Christos Barbas. Um is a very simple one. It's just two guys in a
Yeah.
studio playing live in the studio, and then I mixed it also. But it's a quite open
Mm.
album with a lot of improvisation and space, and I really like
Yeah.
it. Really like it. Very different to what I usually do. These are other these AR and on
Mm.
are two projects that are a bit outside of the styles we are discussing here. This is Bombix Mori, the album with this trio 3.14
Mm.
with Ciro Montanari and Jordi Prats that we
Mm.
listened a little bit also in the beginning.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
and,
So, Efren,
yeah.
how do you get reached? I mean, for your albums or for hiring for an album or
Yeah, the most of for example, all these other projects here, Kelly Thoma, Ross Daly, Stelis Petrakis, Miloki Mandarini, they are friends of mine, I mean, colleagues and
mm,
collaborators. And this is the most of the times I work for my people. I mean, because as I said before, I mean, I'm very busy with my activities as a musician, as a performer. So I don't have a lot of time for mixing. And is a very really for me is a very exhausting
yeah,
task. So I don't do it all the time. I do it like 4 or 5 times a year,
mm.
and so the most of the times it's people that I play with or they know me quite well.
So
But
you
of
are
course
very selective.
yeah, yeah. No, but of course I'm very happy to if somebody wants to me to do it, and I like the music because this is also something also very important. Imagine that I will listen for the same songs for 1 month maybe, all the time, again and again. So if it's music that you don't really like, it's really like kind of torture.
Wow.
But I think nowadays it's something that happens in a very natural way. I mean, the most of the people that reaches me regarding mixing
Mm.
is friends of mine that it's music that I love. So for me, it's like so nice, no?
And then your albums, how to get a copy of these albums or listen to them?
The albums of the last decade at least are all available in my Bandcamp
Mm.
page, so
Yes.
people can listen for a few times for free,
Mm.
and then if they like them, download them in wave quality, so it's like
Hmm.
lossless quality.
Great.
And yeah, yeah,
And otherwise, maybe they look for these albums on any of the paid
yeah, yeah, yeah,
platforms.
yeah.
Interesting. Efren, I am sorry if I bothered you with
No, never,
with
never.
this long session. It's really
This is
great. I'm sure some viewers will thank us for this long period of interview, and some will say why this is too long. But I mean, they can stop and
okay.
come back, or maybe stop
Of course, yeah.
and not come back. And I really suggest that those who liked these interviews to subscribe, share with their communities, and those having the same interest, because this will support the podcast on all the platforms, and will bring more of our great guests really here to share experiences and collaborate. Efren, I leave the conclusion to you.
No, no, I just want to thank you once more. I really, as I say, I always say, and all my friends know, I really admire what you are doing. You are the opposite to all the YouTubers, as they call themselves, no?
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you know, somehow going against the mainstream, no? Of,
Mm.
you know, for people that really love this music, I think the longest interviews are
Yeah.
the better. No, I mean
Yes.
I'm a follower myself of your work, and I really dig into each interview. I learn a lot, so I really encourage you to keep doing it, because really we need that
Yeah.
thing in our busy and
We'll do.
fast food life. No, it's like fast food
We'll do, and
concept.
it's ours. It's ours, and we will really invest into having the good stuff for ourselves.
Mm.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and we will
Thank you.
meet soon in another setup of interview. We already
I hope
planned
so.
one.
I hope so.
So be
Thank
tuned,
you.
guys, and thank you for listening, and thanks for uh, enjoying with us this interview with our master, Efren.
Thank you.
Thanks.